Crossover. Oh, killer crossover.
Just crossover.
It just crossed him over. Nasty.
Another victim to the crossovers. Cross him up and sit him down.
Time for the crossover, powered by Everlevel Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlevelconcrete.com. Matt and Peter, man.
Yes.
Hello. Where's
Yes.
Josh?
I don't know.
Where
is
What do you mean you don't know? Is that just something that you say when you do know but don't want to say?
I know that he very nicely texted me this morning. He was like, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to make it in." I don't know the specifics, and I don't think I need to know the specifics. He's just not here today. I'm assuming it's. I did say to him, "Hey, if you need anything, like, let me know." I don't know if he's sick or his kid might be sick or anything like that.
Would you have driven over a bottle of Sprite?
Yeah, I would have if he needed something to be done. I mean, that's my guy. I mean,
you would take him a bottle of Sprite.
I would
all the way out to West Central Omaha.
If he was
you would fight traffic to do this,
he was deathly sick or something, or needed a Gatorade or Zycam or something.
You would bring him a Gatorade and a Zycam,
or
you have just DoorDash it on his behalf?
to him.
Or I could do, I could do that too. I mean, I'm just saying, if you're one of my guys, I would do something for you.
How many guys do you have?
Great question. That I would legitimately.
If you're one of my guys.
I know the imagining it like the NCAA where there's a bubble scenario.
Yeah.
And it's like he was here, but then he really blew it when we went out.
Yeah,
to lunch
great.
together.
How many quad one wins do I have?
This is great.
How many quad one friends do I regularly hang out
This is a good.
He's great at home, but you can't take him anywhere.
No, he's terrible on the road.
Yeah, you do
that'd
not
be my
bring him on
friend.
the road.
That'd be my friend Jason. Right? Just bad when he's like going from bar to bar.
Who's
Really
mid-major? 31-0 mid-major is going to miss the tournament.
Evan for sure. Evan is like Evan's one of those types of friends where I don't need to talk to Evan for 8 months. Like I can just not say a word.
But you still love him.
When I see him, it's like we've been talking week after week after week. He's the best. He is the Murray State of friends.
Shout out to
Evan. How many guys do I have here in Omaha? Legitimately here in Omaha, probably 5 people I would drop everything for to go.
Joey Colbert.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That
immediately shuts that down.
I am
immediately shut that down.
I am the Bruce Pearl to Joey Colbert's Miami.
That analogy makes more sense to me.
I respect Bruce Pearl.
He is not one of the best 68 friends that I have at all. Joey is not on this list.
Man, if you put together a friend bracket and then filled it out and then
I'm going to do this. This sounds incredible.
Yeah, like Joey would be like a 3 seed because of how much you get to interact with him, but he would lose to a 14.
No, Joey would be the 5 versus 12. Like he would, because just off of working with him for so much and doing the Blue Jay overtime, and I gave him a hoodie and he'd be a 5.
Gave him a hoodie.
She
touched my leg.
Is he losing to a 12? Is he losing?
Kill him.
Joey would lose to that high school friend that's not really in my friend group, but I love to see at a bar. That's the type of person he would lose to.
Okay. Interesting.
So 1 seed would be my friend Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. You're a 1 seed.
That's a for sure one.
Can we call Kevin like it's Selection Sunday?
Yeah, we could.
We put a camera on him and he goes
immediate response.
And they all point at the screen. Yes.
Second 1 seed is my current roommate Dan. My third 1 seed would be my friend from growing up, Colin from elementary school. My fourth 1 seed. This is tough. Probably Mike Wood. He was my college roommate. Those are my 4 1 seeds.
Where would you put random Mike?
Not NIT. Not in.
He wouldn't make the tournament.
No.
But you have 64 people.
But 16 seed, probably Tiburon Terry, who I'm in my golf league with.
Okay.
Terry would be.
There's some more listeners.
Josh Hodson seed wise, you spend 4 hours every day, probably closer to 5.
Josh is a 4.
Whoa. You spend more time with him than you would.
I'm pretty sure by the end of the year he'll be 02.
2.
Yeah,
I totally agree. We've only done this now for about 2 months, but I love Josh, and I had a relationship with Josh before we did this. Josh Peterson would be a 5. He'd be
below Odson.
He would be a 5. You would be an 8.
I don't like being
You-
an 8.
you-
8 or 9 is
9 and we played
8 or 9
Yeah.
is the worst seed you could get.
I would
It really
actually,
is.
I would actually give you a 9.
No, thank you.
Oh, so that's
Um,
the 8-9.
Peter Krenzer would be probably a 14. You would win the.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Me against Joey.
I think you'd win the Horizon League, or something like that.
Who's in the 16
I like the
playing games
Horizon
and
League.
Dayton?
Oh, the 16 playing games, great. So probably my sister-in-law, Sarah.
What about your idiot brother or whatever?
He's not in the tournament.
Is he in the crown?
He didn't make it.
No.
He's going to Vegas.
No, he's actually on probation. He can't make the tournament.
Oh,
Oh no,
He's
that
like,
never happened.
He's like
Oh,
Oklahoma.
dear.
He's like Oklahoma State, and my niece is Cade Cunningham. I love her to
Wow.
death. I do anything for her. Take her #1 overall.
They're the
but
only team that's
she
ever
can't be
been
in the
punished
tournament.
for anything.
Arizona.
It's so weird.
Arizona got punished.
Did they have an NCAA tournament ban?
I think they did
I don't know.
a couple
I don't
of years
know.
ago. If I'm not
I don't
mistaken.
think so.
Oh, you don't think they did? Okay. That's fine. Anyway, though, who would be? I don't know. Like, it would be really tough. Like, I think if you're the first 4 seeds in my friend tournament, you're pretty happy, right? But then, like, determining who's the 6 through the 11, like, and like, because I think if you're,
It sounds like there's a lot of 5s and 6s who could make
there's
a
a
run.
lot. There's a lot. There's a lot of.
I am
5s and
picking
6s.
odds to go pretty deep.
It depends. Is he in Kevin's bracket? Is he in Dan's bracket? Like, Dan kind of just
We
became
don't
one of
know.
my best friends.
We would have no idea.
I think I should do this. I should make a 1-64 friend
It
bracket.
sounds entertaining for you, but not for anyone else.
I don't think anybody
probably.
would give a crap.
You going through it like this makes me, in a few years, would want to put together a bracket of people who call in or comment on the show.
So we
had this
actually
idea.
we've had
Really?
this idea, and I actually have a note on my phone of like certain people that are seated.
oh,
I think I have, but we never got to the
Sure.
point where we could get enough.
like most of these things, it exists in a
Um,
certain space and time, and then it, doesn't really exist beyond that.
There's
Well, I mean, soon enough, very soon, like this weekend, you're going to start seeing just an overflow of nonsensical brackets. I mean,
Total
people are going to be making
nonsense.
brackets of wild stuff. And you're going to be like, whoa, I'm on bracket overload. Can you give me just the regular bracket?
I don't think we need to do it all month, but maybe we just spend 5 minutes every day discussing a random bracket, filling it out to its.
Oh,
completion.
I think that's I think that'd be great for you guys. I think you two would
A
kill
random
that.
bracket that we find on the internet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
that has no relation to us whatsoever.
Do we do that in the bracket sim segment?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't need to. We don't need to spend a ton of time on it.
Plycat asks, where does Matt have anti-gambling Mike seated? Is this in my current friend bracket? Probably a 15.
You're cool with Mike?
I love Mike. I think he's great. He sent me Charleston shoes.
Really?
You ever have a Charlestown shoe before?
No.
I definitely heard
You-
Charleston shoes, and then I
guys
realized that you
haven't-
said Charleston shoes.
Have you guys not had Charleston shoes before?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't
Heard
even
of
think
it.
I've heard
They're
of that.
incredible. I can grab them right now. We can all have one. I mean, they're awesome. They're
Oh, you've
probably
got
my
some?
favorite candy.
Charleston what?
Shoes.
Choose.
Yeah.
CH. I thought you were saying shoes.
Yeah, the first time you said it,
I thought you thought I was saying another.
I
another
thought he
letter
gave
there.
you
No.
shoes.
No.
the first time you said it, there's a very real chance, and we can check the audio on this. You did say shoes.
Choose.
Because I heard shoes, he heard shoes, and I'm 90% sure.
Charleston.
I
Choose.
initially
He
was
used
hearing an
context
S,
clues.
but
and
then I
the
was like,
next time you
is
said
it-
it, you changed the way you said Charleston, but you enunciated choose, so I knew you meant choose.
Charleston choose.
I've never heard of that either, for the record, but
Candy.
it makes more sense
It's great candy.
that he sent you that.
Oh, you thought
I thought he sent you shoes, and I
Yeah,
was
that made
like,
no sense to
"What
me
in the
either.
world?" I've known Mike for like 10 years. I didn't get any shoes.
no choose.
Is it like a?
Do I have
Oh,
a-
so it's like a Tootsie Roll?
Do I? No, it's a little bit better.
A little
than
different?
that. Yeah. It's a little bit
Let me Google it.
Oh, it looks like there's variations.
Baymon it's a delicious candy. It's an absolutely delicious candy.
I've
It's my
heard. Yeah, I've
favorite
heard of
candy.
this. I've never had it though.
So good.
Is there a flavor you like the most?
They're
of them?
just there's no. Well, I think there's a strawberry flavor if I'm
yeah,
not
there's 3
mistaken.
flavors. So.
But I've only ever really eaten the
Oh, is
original.
it a wafer or what's
No,
what's
it's
inside
like
there? Is it nougat?
marshmallow. It's like a marshmallow covered in chocolate.
Really? How soft is it
It's
to,
pretty, it's
to the
fairly-
bite?
It's fairly. It's not like super soft. But
what
it's
it looks
not.
like to me is a
Do you want me to grab them?
either a wafer or a nougat.
I can grab them. I can take 10 seconds and grab them.
Chewy flavored nougat, like I
Okay.
said, with a delicious.
little
chocolatey-
chewy.
It's nougat.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what nougat is, right?
Not really.
It's like the white. It's like
Yeah.
the white stuff in
Yeah.
inside of.
Oh, okay.
They have that in like salted nut rolls.
Yeah.
A
Oh,
variety of
I
other
thought that was marshmallow.
No, it's called nougat.
Oh, I didn't know
it's
that.
a whole different thing.
I didn't know it was a whole different thing. I thought it was marshmallow.
I guess I don't
swear to
know
you.
what nougat is. I don't know what the compound of nougat.
I never
is.
really heard nougat until I watched like the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory movies. You know,
They got nougat.
dude,
in
I'll
there.
tell you right now. I watched that Johnny Depp,
What is
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie probably once a year, and I always get
Have
hungry.
you ever seen the original?
Yes, I have.
The
I have.
Gene Wilder one?
Yes, I have.
Gee.
I was actually in when we did when I was Willy Wonka in the school play.
Oh.
We did the Gene Wilder iteration.
I
So,
definitely would have pictured you as an Oompa Loompa.
thank you.
Wait, who were
What
you?
a great compliment.
I
Who-
just
who were
assumed
you in
were
Willy
a
Wonka?
shorter
Willy
version of
Wonka.
what you are now.
You were Willy
I
Wonka.
was Willy Wonka.
I figured you would have been Mike TV.
I would have been sick as Mike.
You would have been incredible, Mike TV. Just being a little annoying kid running
Yeah,
around.
no,
Mike
I-
TV. I love
yeah,
television.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even though I don't, I like.
You could be like
sports.
Mike TV of the Bears. The Bears, the Bears, the Bears, the Bears. I love
Da
the Bears.
Bears.
The
Da
Bears.
Bears.
By the way, nougat is made by whipping egg whites into a meringue and blending them with a hot boiled sugar or honey. Delicious. That's why nougat is so good.
That sounds hard to make.
Michael.
It does.
Michael
But It's
Severe.
good though.
Michael Severe goes ahead and texts me. 4 seed, me, acquaintance region.
It
Okay.
is.
I wasn't. Maybe. Michael goes. You have to put the Charleston chews in the refrigerator or freezer.
That's what he
first.
sent me too.
It was my favorite
I think we all
candy
got
as
the
a
same.
child.
How does Michael fire off all these texts?
He's really good at texting. He is one of the more elite texters that I have interacted with. I'm a terrible texter, right? You text me.
Elite Texters.
I text Michael
You're just talking about in volume or
in quickness and in volume. But also he doesn't
quickness of like response.
quickness in response, but also he has the perfect amount of volume where it's like there are people who text me too much, okay? And I'm like, I don't need to be texted this much. But there are people who don't text me enough. And so Michael is the type of guy, like when I see
You
a
have
Michael
to text Matt some.
when I see Michael
never-
text, I
I've
go,
never
"Oh, what a
considered-
treat! Michael's texted me." I get excited when I
What's
see
the
Michael
minimum
text.
threshold of amount of times that you should be texted?
Probably, if you're a real friend of mine, I'd like to be texted about 3 times a week.
Whoa.
Which is about
I'm gonna
one,
check
which is like
here.
3, but like
3
one,
different times?
no,
Or 3 texts?
3 texts, 3 bubbles.
okay.
I would like 3 bubbles from everyone.
I guess that's a little more reasonable.
Now I don't need 3 bubbles from you because we talk literally every day.
That's true.
We do talk every day.
So I don't really like. Same thing with Josh and like John. Like I don't really care. But
I
like
don't
you
really
know,
text you.
if you want to be a 1 seed on Matt McMaster's Friends tournament, I'm going to need a couple of texts.
Let me see.
We've
my-
had a lot of texts in the last
We have
week.
because you're very good at listening, and then I do calls for help when it comes to food or places, and
Mm.
you like just are very nice when it comes to those things. You also you are probably one of the adults who make plans more.
we
more
texted
than
way
anyone.
more than I thought we did.
We text a lot.
Yeah.
But you invite, like, you as an adult with a child make a lot of plans to go places. I admire that about you. You like to go places.
Kind of have to.
like you kind of.
I fully believe there's 2 types of parents, and really just 2 types of parents. The parents that don't want to go anywhere ever because they are now a parent, or the people that are like, well, we'll figure it out when we get there
$1,000,000%.
because they're a parent.
You invite
I'm
me
in the we'll figure it out when we get there.
anytime you're like in the downtownish area. Well, not anytime, but a lot of the times that you seem to be in the downtownish area, you send me a text. I very much
Just
appreciate
letting
it.
you know.
I
Like,
know.
hey,
It's very.
I
good.
didn't know that you had all these friends. Now I won't even bother. I'll be like, he's busy.
Not in Omaha. None of them are in Omaha. I am.
Your roommate's not in Omaha?
I think I have like 4 friends in Omaha.
Wow.
The rest are in Lincoln.
And they're all in your weird secret society.
Oh, I guess I wasn't thinking of those people, but
Not even in consideration.
Wow.
well,
Banished to the CBI.
So
Bring
like,
it back.
No.
Austin Jacobson isn't even thought of here.
I just met. Like,
Austin's very funny.
I
We
really
tried to
just
steal
met.
his fiance.
I never tried doing that. I never tried doing that. That is false. I don't know. It's.
I heard
the
too many
su- the
stories
super-
to imply that is not
the
false.
the super secret
And you're
society.
expecting an invite to the wedding.
I'm not expecting it.
There are too many crossovers that contradict these exact.
Because it's Austin making up a bunch of lies. It's Austin saying a bunch of crap.
Austin would never do that.
Austin can't defend himself.
know
He's at
that's not
state
true.
He would never
basketball.
do that. He would never frame anyone for having a white monster in the bathroom. Anything like that.
Let's get
The
Austin
super-
off the scores table at state basketball to call in and defend himself.
That's right.
The super secret society of like young Omaha broadcasters is a nice little, every couple of weeks we sit down, we hang out, we have a couple beers.
I thought you said you didn't have very many friends. Those guys who you actually legit hang
But
out
I'm-
with are not on your bracket.
No,
This
no.
is absurd.
No. Those I'm more speaking about in my mind when I go like I don't have a ton of Omaha friends. I don't have a ton of people where I could like text out of the blue,
Okay,
not
let's
have
just make
to
it
make
easier for you.
any to me
Acquaintance bracket. Just make it an acquaintance
No.
bracket.
no. What I'm saying though is that to me, I don't have a lot of
13
people
seed.
that
Guy I inadvertently waved at the grocery store because I thought he was someone else.
there are a lot of people.
He wins.
What about the guy who you hung out with that at Boar's Head that one at
Brazen Head,
Brazen Head that one time
hockey guy.
who was mad about the hockey or he had takes on the hockey.
That guy,
Yeah,
hockey bro.
Is
man.
he on the hockey man?
Hockey man?
Yeah. Was
Yeah.
he at
No,
was he on the
he's
Mr.
bracket?
Hockey.
Mr. Hockey. No, he's not on the bracket, Mr. Hockey. Not on the bracket at all.
All right.
I'm saying that I don't let me just because you guys don't care about the semantics, but Bigelow's probably listening, so he cares about the semantics. There aren't a lot of people that there are not a lot of people I can just text out of the blue and say, hey, let's go out in the next 3 hours right now and like let's just go to a bar, do this or whatever. I don't have a lot of people like that in Omaha. Okay. I have
Mostly
plenty of-
because they're more than 3 hours away.
I
from
have
there.
plenty of friends in Omaha, but I would have to make like a week in advance
I
plans
think
with
that's
them
just
for that
being
to
an
happen.
adult.
Yeah, I
I
think
kind of hate
you should
that.
just ignore that part. Yeah. Like you could text me. You should feel comfortable texting me. Hey, want to hang out? But I'll almost certainly say no. But that doesn't mean
Almost
we're
certainly.
not friends.
When I was in Lincoln and I was in and when I was in Lincoln, when I was in Lincoln and I was in Chicago, I could
You
literally
can
be
text me. I'm gonna say no.
when I was back in
Let
college
me
or back.
reject you. Be open to
but that's
being
not because we're not
rejected.
good friends. It's because I need
I just
to
don't
be
have,
in the exact
or
right
how about
position.
this? I don't have a ton of like go out friends. Like I don't have a ton of friends that we could just.
So
go
is this
out.
a go out friend bracket or is this just a friend bracket?
I
What
think
is
it's
this?
just a friend bracket. Mike goes, where is Rich Hill?
Where is Rich Hill? You hung out with him for hours and hours and hours.
16 seed.
Rich Hills.
Rich Hill is,
I'm just
Rich
saying,
Hill has left Omaha and he'll never
in
come back.
comparison to my hometown, in comparison to like Lincoln, if plans got canceled right on a Friday, I could send out 3 texts and I could be going elsewhere with completely different
The
people.
population density is way a concern here.
I can't do that in Omaha. That just can't occur.
It's just
Well,
it's,
plans
it's a
get-
numbers game.
If plans get canceled, that's why I'm saying I don't have a ton of Omaha friends. I don't have as many as
Just
I would
because
like.
there's less people in Omaha, it's just not as dense of a population.
No, there's more people in Omaha than Lincoln.
Oh, I thought you were talking about compared to Chicago.
No. I'm just saying in comparison to the places I've been at.
I just got a text from a friend. Hey, can we go out and be friends?
We got the same text.
Did you get that text? I don't think Matt probably did.
No.
It's from a friend, a good friend who I can
Someone
text
that if they
at any
texted
time.
Connor, he would definitely not hang out with.
But
him.
I might not even text this person back, but that doesn't mean we're not friends. You know,
I think I know who you're talking about.
I don't think you probably do, but
Okay.
but
I have a pretty good guess because I had the same verbiage in my text.
you see what I'm saying though? Like we don't have to text to be friends.
I agree. I agree with all of this. I think I'm just saying in relativeness to me. I don't know why I care so much about like trying to make sure that all the
You're
all
keeping
the
score.
things-
You got to stop keeping score. You know, just roll, baby.
You just got to be comfortable enough to tell someone to text you at any time and that you will not hang out.
But Connor's got the insulation.
I don't know what it is.
I wasn't bothered by it at all. First
you
off,
shouldn't be bothered by it.
first
It's
off,
hilarious.
let's first off say this. I don't know if I've ever really texted you to like go out.
I've texted you a couple times.
Exactly. When Connor texts me of like,
You drop everything.
I do, swear to God, swear to you, swear
This
to you.
opportunity.
That
to
has
come
happened
back.
like twice, actually.
It actually
yeah.
has where and it's happened multiple times too, where Connor hints at us going out somewhere. And I go,
Just-
don't tempt me.
Keep him on the hook.
I go,
you know?
don't tempt me. Because like you say it now, I'm excited now.
You know,
I want to
why?
do it.
He's looking for a fellow degenerate to hit the casino.
Exactly. Exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
He needs somebody that he can be like, well, I mean, at least.
And
I've
guess
got-
what? We went. We had a great time.
We had an awesome time.
We had a great
This is the thing.
We hung out with other friends. I
I-
wonder if those people would make your bracket.
No, they wouldn't.
All right. All right.
I will say though, like I already know that Connor is a tough guy. He's a tough book. Okay, it's hard. It's hard. It's like going to a Bob Seger concert.
I don't go across the river much.
No, you don't. So it's like when Connor communicates to me that this is a potential opportunity for us to endeavor, I literally do go, you let me know. You let me know.
Who knows?
You are not. I'm not like that with you
Now, let me
because
tell you
I know
this,
that
Matt.
you're accessible.
Let me tell you this, Matt. I would
Probably
imagine
true.
that there will be a lot of circumstances within the next like 3 months where the air is right. The conditions are ripe for me to text you again and to say, let's do this thing.
I'll be ready.
Are we doing this thing? Because I will be downtown quite a lot. It'll be, it'll be Friday night.
Mhm.
It'll be 9 o'clock. I'll be wrapping up with the broadcast and I'll say, I can see the casino off in the distance.
The light is
Let's call
shining.
Matt. He'll come with me and then we'll hang out.
It's
And I'll-
actually closer to me now than where I live. It would be dumb to not go to the casino.
That's
immediately.
my thought process.
And
Yes.
and by the way, too, I'm very much now in the phase of my life where going to the casino and being able to go to a casino like a year ago from this point was so like cool to me. Like, oh my God, like I get to just go to the casino whenever I want. And I get to, I can gamble $30 here, gamble, whatever. Now that has worn off a bit, in part because I've lost a little bit. like I've lost a couple $100. I'm just like, I like to go to the casino not like once every 6 weeks.
But the casino is the friends we made along the way. Everyone knows that.
Everyone does know that.
That is the real casino.
It is.
Even if you wouldn't put some of them on your bracket.
No,
Even if
I'm
they
not
don't make
going to
the
put those
field.
people on my bracket.
They might want to be.
I can't even explain who those people are.
That's true.
Can you explain Kevin?
From California, we met in college, and he told me for the first week of our friendship that he was from Boston, and he pretended to be from Boston. And then
What a bit.
So you can
Man.
explain Kevin, but I will not understand Kevin.
And then eventually he revealed that he was from
Kevin's a
Santa Clara,
weirdo.
California. And then we became great friends.
Why did he want you to think he was from Boston?
He's a man of bits. He thought it was a funny bit.
That is a wonderful
Pretty
bit.
good. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie.
And he would just look up Boston towns. and
Did he
stuff.
try to talk in an accent?
Not really, but like he would be like, "Yeah, I'm from Psalm Squat."
So he just made up. I mean, he didn't make them up. Obviously,
Yeah,
he did some
his
Googling.
I did some
Yeah.
research.
Yeah.
He's under his contact is under dumbass in my phone.
Oh, that means you guys are really cool.
Yeah, he's a 1 seed.
He might win. And
No,
he's
he
from
wouldn't.
and he's from where? What walk of life?
College.
Okay.
I have on
Were you
this-
on the same floor?
No, we were in different buildings.
Okay.
Yeah. We were both. He was on Harper 5. I was Shram 5. So technically,
How'd you guys meet at the dining hall?
No, I had a buddy who lived on Harper 5, and I went over to his place to hang out and all these guys.
Did you take the tunnel?
No,
In
I
the
just
winter
walked
time?
over. In the wintertime I did. Yeah, Steak Thursdays. God, it was so great at Harper Dining Hall. Phenomenal. I have 3. Honestly, my 1 seeds are 3 college friends and 1 grade school friend. So the high school. friends
What
might be
floor
mad.
did they live on?
Mike lived on Harper 5. Dan, I didn't meet until like sophomore year, and Mike was also Harper 5.
A lot of Harper 5 guys up in
Harper
here.
5.
And then Colin and I.
Shout out Harper 5.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
lived on Harper 8.
Harper 8. Nice. Where
Ooh,
did you
close
live?
by.
Smith 3.
Smith. What a weirdo. Wow.
Yeah, you're the
I've never-
Smith guy I've ever met.
I didn't seriously.
Really?
You really?
Wow.
I've never met a Smith person. I thought they were.
They exist?
They exist. I had no idea.
Graham Smith,
I
then.
thought they were myths.
They're all right there.
They're
It's
all. I
amazing.
had no
We're
idea.
all staring at
I
each other.
never met. Literally 4 years. I never met anyone who was like, yeah, Smith.
Peter, what
9.
were you?
I was an East Side Sweets boy. I was a little. I was lame in that regard.
No,
where
that's pretty cool.
it was. It was.
You
fun.
were a sweets guy.
I was a sweets guy.
Wow.
I got in on this. I think I got maybe the last possible room that was available.
Jeez.
My wife got in the Knoll her freshman year. I was
Ooh.
really jealous of that.
That's good stuff.
Ray was
Those
able
are good.
11.
Able 11.
Able.
Shout out to the able people.
See, PC goes. None of Matt's friends
Shout out
lived
Husker
in
Hoagies.
Signu. Here's
God,
the
those
funny
were
thing.
good
I know,
Oh, don't
First
answer
off-
that question.
First off, I know Signu doesn't have a house, but I was friends with a lot of Signu people.
talk to Black Cat about that situation.
Oh, really?
Well, allegedly.
Okay.
Allegedly.
This
Maybe
was
I've said
fun.
too much.
Wow. What a crossover this was, where I was trying to backtrack on some of the things that I said, and you guys just
Eventually,
continued
we'll
with the
get you to
bit.
rank all your friends, and
That's
get
what March is
all
for.
of
Is
them to be
ranking
mad.
all your loved
I'm
ones.
I'm gonna be honest with you right now. I have no problem doing that. I like.
Clearly.
I would like people to know where they stand in my life.
Nice. You would have been good in the MySpace era.
Tomorrow's bracket will be immediate and extended family.
Yeah.
and tell all of them to tune in.
Good one, Peter.
Chris, not in bracket.
I know. Yeah, your brother. You really hate that guy.
My mom listened to the crossover yesterday.
She's probably not happy with that.
She said, "Stop calling your brother a loser."
It is. It is a little
Did
interesting.
she tell you that she's disappointed? The grill
She
that it's not a
told me,
Weber?
she was like, "You low key went in on us yesterday." She was like, "You called me useless," which I love you, Mom. You're not useless. Just you shouldn't have let the snowblower idle for 3 years and then wonder why it didn't work.
Still mad about it.
I am. I had to shovel the
Still mad
driveway. It's
about the
2025 and I'm
snow.
shoveling driveways. This is ridiculous.
That's all right. It's springtime.
I gotta
Bill's
get
character.
I gotta get a Honda mower.
Yeah, you do. Those things never die. They don't make them anymore.
I've never mowed the lawn.
Those things don't die, just the company that made it.
It's amazing. It's like I feel like there's a lot of examples of really great products that people will just buy for eternity, and then one day randomly they're like, we don't make these anymore.
Nike golf balls.
Nike golf everything.
Literally.
Yeah.
Like a staple of
Yeah,
my
Nike
childhood.
irons.
Yeah.
They don't make them.
I had a Nike driver. My dad goes, "Keep that. That's a collector's item."
Everybody who has ever played the Nike irons is like, I love them.
I
They're
still
awesome.
I do like them.
Yeah.
I do want to get new irons.
It-
I would not.
And they're
sell
like, yeah,
them.
don't make them anymore.
It's also great. Like if you were to go in the woods looking for a ball, the number one ball that you would like to find is a Titleist Pro V1. I would say the second ball that I would like to find, like out of happenstance, would be a Nike Mojo.
The number one ball I want to find, Matt, is the one that I hit.
You don't just go in the woods looking for balls.
No.
No, you have to play your ball, Matt.
Well, I find
This
no,
is a
I
gentleman's game.
I find my ball, but then I still go and look for
But
other
then I
people.
take
yeah, I
10
take
other
10
ones.
other ones.
What a weird sport. I hit this ball and then I find a pink one and I play that.
Check
Well,
it out. This one's got a much
guys
better
don't- you
lie.
guys aren't
I
looking
think
for-
I'll hit this.
You guys aren't looking for balls in the
Well, I
woods?
didn't find my ball, but I found 15 other ones. And I'm
Seriously,
saying-
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
have-
look
I
at
have
this. I
said
go,
that before.
I got a Strixon. Look at this.
I have said that before, but I'm not actively looking for other balls.
Oh,
like
I'm not.
if another ball, like if I stumble upon one, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. Maybe
It's
I'll
nice to
probably just
have
leave it.
options. I'd rather just find mine. You get to a point where you play golf enough that you don't really want to just play random balls anymore.
I don't. I haven't hit that.
Yeah, you'll
that-
get
that
there.
point yet.
Maybe you
It'll
will
happen.
when we go to where are they at? The tee box? Are you going to the tee box?
I am going to the tee box.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I wanted to hit the range yesterday and today, but the weather unfortunately is a little bit
Yeah, not
gloomy
great.
for that to happen. But my league starts up in a month, so we got to get going. Boys, this was fun.
Speaking of getting going,
This is a lot of fun. The crossover is powered by Everlove Concrete, Paranormal at everloveconcrete.com. I was trying to get out of here, then we started talking about golf.
I'm fine with it.
Peter Krenzer, welcome. We're going to have fun today.
Yes,
Coming
we
up
are.
on Middays with Matt here on 1620 The Zone.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people. Whose car are we gonna take?
I have a lot of things I want to get off my chest.
That's an absolutely horse crap call.
Make room for Daddy. But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
Chicago is.
This is Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Middays with Matt live and rolling here on 1620 Zone. Matt McMaster in for Josh Hodgson today. It's Peter Krenzer. Peter, how you doing?
Doing great. Doing great.
Doing great indeed. Will be a great show for you today. Crazy night of college basketball occurred yesterday. We'll talk about it locally as the Nebraska Cornhuskers I think it's pretty safe to say, their worst 40-minute performance last night on the road against UCLA. We'll talk about all of what happened in La Land yesterday as the Huskers once again get off to a slow start, chasing the UCLA Bruins for essentially the entirety of that contest, and then fall short after just had opportunities in the second half, I think, to make some runs. Unfortunately, coming up short on the first of 1-1s isn't going to help it when you're trying to come back from a double-digit deficit. On top of that, a 5-point play that essentially just swung the entire game and kind of locked everything up for the Bruins is tough as well. So we'll talk about that game and what the outlook of the season might be for Nebraska after that result. I'll just get ahead of it right now. I'm not going to treat a basketball loss as a football loss. I don't think every loss in basketball is a referendum on the team. I think we've done a pretty great job with that so far this season for Nebraska basketball, in part because they haven't lost that much this year. So we'll talk about that game and how it honestly hasn't changed a whole lot for me in terms of the outlook I have on this team. Yeah. Is it disappointing that they played basically their worst basketball in the month of March? Sure. Would you have liked that to have happened maybe in December or January? Yeah. I mean, absolutely. You would like to get that out of the way before you kind of get into the outlook of the postseason. At the same time, is this team still really, really good? Absolutely. So we'll talk about the game yesterday and some of the things that we saw. We'll also talk to John Walker at 11 o'clock today as Creighton men's basketball is on the road in Indianapolis taking on Butler. That game at 5 o'clock here on 1620 The Zone. We'll have unsportsmanlike conduct to lead up to the tip-off of that game. John Bishop out of USC today. He's announced the game between the Bulldogs and the Blue Jays. We'll have Mike Stibbs in for unsportsmanlike conduct today. So that will be a lot of fun, a great crossover to be had. We also don't want to have you forget, it's a Wacky Guess Wednesday here on 1620 The Zone. Josh Odson has done a great job of booking our guest and then giving the information to Peter Krenzer. So I know that, Wacky Guess Wednesday is just as much of Josh's segment because he gets to show off his producer booking abilities as much as it is just me trying to interview somebody random that we have no clue who's going to come on the show at 1 o'clock. So I want to give him kudos there. He's booked the guest, so don't worry about that. And we will have Wacky Guess Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Yesterday was a pretty active day in the NFL as well. We had something that hasn't happened in like 30 years. Daniel Jones gets a transition tag, which essentially is the best example is kind of like a qualifying offer or a matching offer in the NBA, right?
Yeah.
In the NBA, when you draft a player, they become a restricted free agent, right? And so a team can give them a contract. That player can agree to that contract, but then the team that originally, has the bird rights to that player can match that contract, and that player has to return to their original team. That's essentially what can happen here with Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts.
It's been a fun day on Colts Twitter.
Yes. Colts fan Peter Krenzer. So
and by fun, I mean not fun.
We'll get Peter's opinions on what the outlook of the future of the quarterback position is in Indianapolis, along with a lot of other crazy stuff that happened yesterday. Drew Dahlman retired. What are the Bears going to do? There was quite the article released at 4:30 a.m. Central Time on The Athletic by Michael Silver, who I don't know if we knew some of this information about the Las Vegas Raiders and especially the happenings within that franchise, along with, their kind of head decision maker and new minority owner, Tom Brady. There are some things that were happening in New England surrounding some people that were in Brady's circle that apparently have seemed to reoccur in Las Vegas. And we will talk about that. I don't know. This is the first time I've read this individual's name, and the individual I'm talking about is Alex Guerrero, the very famous TB12 trainer for Tom Brady. Apparently he's back in Las Vegas. I haven't read that name since the whole Brady Belichick drama, even before Brady left for Tampa Bay. So some weird things are going on in Vegas, and one of those things surround Max Crosby and whether or not he will be traded. Also under the radar, one of the stranger and let's just say more botched contract negotiations finally came to an end yesterday with Trey Hendrickson not being tagged by the Cincinnati Bengals and will now be an unrestricted free agent. That saga seemed like it dragged on forever and ever and ever. Hendrickson, before the season where he only played in 4 games, had 35 sacks in 2 years, 17 and a half in both 2023 and 2024. He's now on the market. Be interesting to see where he lands. It'll also be interesting to see where Kyler Murray, former first-round pick, 7-year quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, no longer got released yesterday. Cardinals are eating up about $36 million in cap space to no longer have Murray be on the team. Murray will certainly sign a minimum deal for whoever he ends up playing football for next, which will be quite the deal for whatever team ends up acquiring his services. We'll talk about a couple of teams that definitely can be on that list of teams that are going to go ahead and maybe acquire Kyler Murray. And, you know, it's interesting. We are now in this age of football where reclamation projects is the hot word. I mean, that is the name of the game, it seems like, over the last couple of years. I mean, if we've had, you know, we're always in sports finding new trends and finding new things that work, right? You know, the beauty about sports, whatever it may be, right? Whatever, you know, whether it's baseball, whether it's basketball, whether it's hockey, whether it's, you know, football, could be NASCAR, could be horse racing, could be whatever it is. You know, the game is always so much different 10 years later. And there's all these new trends and new things that kind of occur that maybe didn't occur as much in the past. And, you know, the first thing that pops to mind is the elevation of the 3-pointer in basketball, right? I mean, how Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors, you know, kind of changed, and analytics had an effect on that as well. You know, we see it all the time in NASCAR where they literally change the cars. They literally change the engines and change the aerodynamics and how, you know, those cars are supposed to be driven. We've seen it in football with, you know, from an on-field perspective of, you know, spread offenses and what Sean McVay does and what Kyle Shanahan does and what Kevin O'Connell does and, you know, the use of motions and stuff like that. And now we see, you know, we've kind of seen another evolution of the sport in terms of, you know, the run game is sexy again. We really saw it in Green Bay last year with Matt LaFleur, saw it last couple of years with the LA Rams. We saw it in Detroit with Ben Johnson, and now he's kind of brought that over to the Bears. But one of the evolutions that we've seen from an off-the-field standpoint, right, an evolution of how teams are evaluating talent and building rosters is taking quarterbacks that failed elsewhere and you know, hopefully giving them more tools and better coaching and, you know, giving them another shot to rejuvenate their careers. We saw it with Baker Mayfield. We saw it with Sam Darnold. We're potentially could see it with Mac Jones coming up, and Kyler Murray definitely is going to be a guy who, former first overall pick, former guy, you know, super talented, highly touted, coming out of Oklahoma. Like, you know, I think people looked at Baker Mayfield in Cleveland and they looked at Sam Darnold at the Jets and said, wow, those guys really didn't have the greatest opportunity to succeed. They weren't given the tools that they needed. And those guys, Baker Mayfield went to Tampa Bay and had 2 guys who became head coaches as his offensive coordinators. His career has been kind of resurrected. You know, you look at Sam Darnold, he goes to Minnesota, great offensive head coach in Kevin O'Connell, goes to Seattle, great offensive coordinator in Clint Kubiak, who becomes a head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders. Can Kyler Murray be looked at a guy as like, hey, he wasn't given the greatest opportunity to be the guy that people thought he could be. And let's be real here. Kyler Murray's best 2 years as an Arizona Cardinal came under Cliff Kingsbury in 2020 and 2021, a guy who is very, very much known for being a high-level offensive thinker, offensive play caller. These last 3 years with Gannon doesn't have that same reputation. And so, can a team like Minnesota maybe try and do it again and say, hey, we'll take a guy like Kyler Murray. So we'll talk about that. What are potential places? And, has the performances of previous top quarterbacks drafted actually helped Kyler Murray find a new spot in the NFL? So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Nebraska, UCLA, crazy night in college basketball, upsets everywhere. Yesterday was probably Bobby Hurley's last hurrah in Tempe. That job is, for the last year, it seems like agents have been tapping in on the availability of that incoming vacancy and trying to get their clients, jockeyed in position to maybe have that job in the future. Hurley, we talked about yesterday, there was a CBS Sports article of, coaches that are on the hot seat. He was the number one guy on that list. Upset Kansas yesterday. A lot of upsets happened. Georgia, definitely a team that in and around the bubble goes ahead, beats Alabama. TCU,
weirdest resume of any power team.
They've beaten Texas Tech, Iowa State, and Florida this year. They've also played Arizona and Houston and lost to them. They've just had weird losses.
I think
overall
almost
this year as well.
30-point loss to Georgia Tech somewhere in there.
So
very weird.
They have 10 losses on the year, and they're a team that for quite a while was on kind of the other at-large bids on Bracket Matrix. They get another great win for their resume against Texas Tech. Kind of sneaky win yesterday, and we'll talk a little bit about it more. But UNC, they're doing this without Caleb Wilson, who's out with a broken hand. It seems like he's trending to come back in the next couple of weeks for the Tar Heels. I know Hubert Davis definitely has been a guy that people were like, all right, yeah, North Carolina's, they made the tournament last year, barely. They probably shouldn't have. They're going to make the tournament this year, but, there always is those high expectations for a team like North Carolina. Tar Heels have won 10 of their last 12 games. That includes wins over ranked Louisville, Virginia, and Duke. So North Carolina kind of trending in the right direction. I think they're the 17th team in the country before their 4-point win yesterday against Clemson. So we'll continue to talk about a pretty active night in college basketball. Will be active today. The Nebraska women's basketball team, who definitely are fighting for an NCAA tournament bid, play today at 3:30 on Peacock, or 2:30 rather, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central on Peacock against Indiana. They're the 12th seed in the Big Ten Conference tourney, which begins today for women's basketball.
First game, I think, is Nebraska in that tournament.
So we will be, won't be going on during our show, unfortunately, but that'll be a very big win for Amy Williams, or big game for Amy Williams and her squad, who definitely still are fighting to be in the NCAA tournament. I have other complaints, too, about the Nebraska-UCLA game that go past what happened on the basketball court yesterday.
Ooh.
We tweeted it out. We tweeted it out literally at, I think, around this time at like 10:45 yesterday, that there was no way that this game was going to begin at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Like we Josh Hodson and I literally tweeted, hey, can't wait for this game to tip off at 10:13. We were off by 2 minutes. It tipped off at 10:15. You couldn't get it on FS1 until 10:30.
I think I flipped the TV on at about 9:50, and 2 minutes later, the program alert ticker came up.
And then the broadcast itself was just, I don't know. You could tell that it was a 8 p.m. local tip.
Well, so
on a Tuesday.
Until you said something,
I had to turn the announcers off yesterday.
Until you said something, I didn't even know who that play-by-play was.
So that was Carlo Jimenez,
and I wasn't aware that he was associated with the Clippers or anything like that.
So he's the Clippers radio play-by-play guy. Carlo's great. Like he's awesome. I think you could tell yesterday that he was more of a radio dude than he was a TV guy.
Yeah.
I think he just seemed a little uncomfortable and maybe didn't fully understand the pace of the game. I still think he's going to be really, really good. I think he's a 1 year older than me. So I think he's going to have I really do think he's going to have a great future.
Very new.
For TV. Radio. If you listen to his radio broadcast, he's awesome on the radio.
And I haven't heard
his
radio
color
calls.
commentator was terrible yesterday. Don McClain, just not my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea. kind of sleepy.
It was very sleepy, which you don't want for 10
It
p.m.
was very
local.
boring. It was very bland. It just wasn't. I think, Carlo got stepped on a ton during that broadcast and, really didn't take control of it. Let Don talk way too much. And I didn't find anything what Don was saying overly interesting. And it was just, when you're going to tip off a game at 10:15 and you're already annoyed that it's so late, and then you're watching your team getting their butts whooped and not playing any sort of not playing to the standard in which you know them to play, and then you're listening to this broadcast and you're just like, this is just not high quality. It gets really annoying really quickly. It honestly, it's neither here nor there. Like, this isn't going to move the needle or anything like that, but that broadcast definitely didn't help what was going on in LA yesterday, where the Nebraska Cornhuskers undoubtedly played their worst full game of the season against UCLA. We'll talk about that game and more here on Middays with Matt. Coming up next, we'll give you a little bit of a rundown of what happened in college basketball yesterday, preview of what you could look forward to tonight. And then at 11 o'clock, we'll have John Walker join the show here on Middays with Matt. 402-951-1620 is the number to reach us. That's the Prairie Flower Casino hotline. Prairie Flower Casino, play longer, win more. Hey, don't forget to email us at the Equitable Bank inbox. Equitable Bank, they take banking personally. Let's look at the bubble coming up next here on Middays with Matt.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone. Now, back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
You like bubbly, Peter?
A little bit of the bubbly.
A little bit of bubbly. I like bubbly.
I do.
Nice little prosecco.
I do. Yeah.
We got bubbly yesterday.
You did.
No, I didn't. We didn't. We did. Wait, how am I saying? We got bubbly. The college basketball fan, the college basketball landscape got bubbly yesterday. A lot of things in and around the bubble happened. It was, look, I want to admit, I did a disservice to Middays with Matt listeners yesterday because I said you, this slate isn't that good. I told you, I go, well, like, it's a lot of ranked teams are playing tonight, but they're not playing any ranked teams. And, a lot of these games are double-digit spreads. And, there's a couple that are 6.5, a couple that are 8.5. Like, I don't know if maybe we'll have an upset or two, but I mean, it shouldn't be anything crazy. It was crazy. A lot of things went a lot of different directions. Like there were, it didn't really matter what side of things, what side of the bracket you might have been on. You might have been a team that seemed like they were pretty safe and they were going to, use a game to get right against a team who's probably going to fire their head coach in the Kansas-Arizona State game, where Kansas has been on that kind of 2-3 seed line for the last couple of weeks. Now they kind of dipped a little bit into the 4 seed line after, not having the best week last week. But they played Arizona State in probably what will be Bobby Hurley's last home game, and they were trailing 40-20 at the first half. And Bill Self got ejected, which was wild on a, obviously that it was a foul on Darren Peterson that should have been called, but it seemed like they were able to cut it to 6, or they were able to cut the lead down, like going in, with under 6 minutes left, and then Arizona State went on a run at the very end of the game. They closed it out. It was a very pathetic court storming that I watched before we led in to the Nebraska game. But that game was supposed to be all right. Hey, let's get the things back on track if you're Kansas, right? Like let's get things rolling again. This was a Kansas team that until they had lost to Cincinnati and then got their butts whooped against Arizona on the road over the weekend, that you were thinking, all right, they're trending in a 2-seed direction. They now lose to Arizona State and very well could be firmly on that 3-4 line now. Georgia was a team that entered yesterday at a 9 seed. And the bubble isn't all that great. If we're being honest, it's not necessarily a strong bubble that we have in the NCAA tournament this year.
No,
they were Georgia's a team there that, with a couple of games left to go, their win yesterday against Alabama almost certainly locked them in to an NCAA tournament bid, a high quality win. And the way that they did it too, like, it's not as if they beat Alabama 78-72 and, the Crimson Tide couldn't get anything going. They out-offensed Alabama. They beat them 98-88. You don't really do that against a Nate Oates
very rare
Alabama
very,
team.
very
like
rare.
It's kind of hard to out-offense a team that is really, really talented year in and year out offensively. Cannon Catchings had 32 points for the Bulldogs yesterday. Big win for them. Not a good loss, though, for a team that kind of is in the similar situation as Georgia. Missouri, who, according to Bracket Matrix, is right under Georgia. They played Oklahoma. I don't know if we've kind of talked about this on this show, in part because I like him from his time at Loyola Chicago. Porter Moser and Oklahoma have won 5 of their last 7 games. That's an Oklahoma job that I think a lot of people, especially a month ago when they didn't win a game for damn near a month, thought, all right, that thing's going to open up. Let's see who's going to be the next coach of Oklahoma. A guy, by the way, and I don't know if this would actually come to fruition, but, if Omaha won their 2nd straight Summit League tournament, someone who has a great deal of connections with the Oklahoma Sooners is Chris Crutchfield. But Porter Moser has won 5 of their last 7 games. And I don't know if that's going to be enough to save his job, but I will say this, Peter Krenzer. You're looking across, let's just say the Power Five, Big 12, Big 10, Big East, SEC. One of those things where bid stealers happen, bid stealers occur. And if I were to say a league that is most likely, this is my opinion, most likely to have a bid stealer in the Power Five between the ACC, the Big 12, the Big 10, the SEC, and the Big East. What conference is most likely out of those five to have a bid stealer? I would say it would be the SEC. Because I think they're the bottom of the Big 10. The teams that aren't going to make the tournament in the Big 10 just are not good. Washington's not good. Oregon is not good. Maryland is not good. Penn State's not good. Northwestern's not good. I don't think you're going to get a bid stealer in the Big East. I just don't see Seton Hall beating two of Villanova, St. John's, and UConn.
I don't either. I'm not there.
I think the Big 12 this year, they had, and this was as of Monday, so maybe things have changed, but we talked about they had 8 teams in the top 50. 6 of them in the net ranking are in the top 23. I just think it's going to be really hard for a team to beat that many high-quality teams in the Big 12 and steal a bid. And then you move to the ACC. I don't know. I just don't see a team outside of Louisville, Clemson, UNC really being able to beat a team like Duke. And so I think the SEC, and this is another thing we talked about, like this is a league that probably will end up getting 10 bids, anywhere from kind of that 8 to 10 range in terms of NCAA tournament teams. But after Florida, it kind of falls off a little bit in terms of the quality of team. The next best team, and this was as of Monday when we did this exercise, the next best team after Florida was 10 spots behind them in Alabama, right? Yeah. And Alabama's a team, just lost yesterday to Georgia, but Florida is also a team where they lost to Auburn, who until they picked up a pretty good win yesterday against LSU, which improves, their bubble resume.
Something changed in Florida after that Auburn.
Oh, big
game.
time. Big
something
time.
clicked.
But that's still a Florida team that's lost 6 games this year.
It is.
So I definitely could see an SEC team because it just doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of true strength at the top of the SEC. Plenty of good teams, right? Missouri's a good team. And Alabama's a good team, and Vanderbilt's a fine team. Tennessee's had a good year. Like there's plenty of good quality teams in the SEC, but I don't think there's a ton of strength at the top where you just say there's no way that this type of team could beat all these high quality type of teams like in the Big 12. I don't know. Oklahoma. I'm not telling you that they're going to win the NCAA or they're going to win the SEC tournament, but they're clicking at the right time.
But what would a couple wins
I don't know.
In the SEC tournament do
for
what would that do for Porter though? Would that would that buy him some time potentially?
I don't know. I think at this point, if they won the SEC tournament, and makes the NCAA tournament, you definitely have to keep them. I don't know. I don't know if a couple of wins in the SEC tournament would really do it, but they're heading in the right direction.
I really see what you're saying. I do agree that the middle pack, from what we've seen in the grand scheme of things, the middle of the pack in the SEC is, compared to the middle packs of the other power conferences, much more capable of going after the top of the conference. The top of the conference outside of Florida, the Alabamas, the Arkansas, the Tennessee, they seem a lot more susceptible to slipping up like we have seen like in the Georgia Bama game.
If you go ahead and you look at the net ranking right now, Florida is 4th. After Florida, it goes Vanderbilt at 16, Alabama at 17, Tennessee at 19, Arkansas at 20.
Okay.
For example, the top team in the Big 10 is Michigan at 2. After them, it's Illinois at 5, Purdue at 9, Michigan State at 11, Nebraska at 12. Look at the Big 12. Top team is Arizona at 3. But then you got Houston at 7, Iowa State at 10, Texas Tech at 14, Kansas at 18. So it's just, the top of the conference. I think as a whole, the SEC is strong, right? They're going to probably end up getting 10 bids in the NCAA tournament. But at the very top, because it's just not as strong as the other, as strong as the Big 10 or as strong as the Big 12, I definitely could see maybe a bid skewler in the SEC. I mean, it's always hard to, those are always hot takes. It's hard to predict those things, right? Bid skewers are teams that haven't really played well all year to the point where they can get an NCAA tournament. All of a sudden, they have a hot couple of games and end up winning. But Oklahoma having a hot couple of weeks here, winning 5 of their last 7. Kentucky rolled over yesterday to Texas A&M. They led 30-18 with about 8 minutes to go in the first half, and then A&M went on a 27-2 run yesterday to beat Kentucky and Mark Pope, which just have had a really disappointing season from the perspective of investment. Kentucky's probably going to end up being a 6 seed or a 7 seed, but the fact that they've put so much money into that roster and they've gotten this result, definitely going to be disappointing in Lexington. A&M, definitely a team on the bubble right now, projected as a 10 seed in bracket matrix, so big win for the Aggies. Another interesting win, too. Cincinnati beat BYU yesterday. Wes Miller is a head coach that it seemed like Cincinnati was ready to move on from him after that West Virginia loss. And he had that kind of famous moment on Twitter where he went in front of a bunch of fans and seemingly donors and said, hey, this is all on me. Since then, Cincinnati's won 6 of their last 7 games, including a win over Kansas, a win over UCF, and a win over BYU.
Point win.
So hell of a win for Cincinnati over BYU yesterday. So we got very bubbly yesterday. TCU, they were 11 seed. They picked up a bubble win. Georgia was a 9 seed. They picked up a bubble win. Missouri had a bubble loss. Cincinnati maybe playing themselves to the bubble. Texas A&M was a projected 10 seed. They won their game. So things are getting a little spicy. They're getting a little spicy as we come down the stretch here. Auburn, another one. We've had this over and over discussion about Auburn. They win their game. And then, hey, by the way, 74-72 win yesterday over Toledo for Miami of Ohio, 30-0. They are 1 win away from finishing their MAC regular season undefeated. Undoubtedly, they should be in the NCAA tournament. So things got exciting yesterday. Will things get exciting in Indianapolis today when the Creighton Blue Jays take on the Butler Bulldogs? We'll talk to John Walker, the Omaha World Herald, up next to discuss it all with him here on Middays with Matt.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone. Now back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Creighton men's basketball plays their final Big East regular season game of the year today. They go ahead and take on the Butler Bulldogs. Tip off at 5 o'clock in Indianapolis. Pregame will begin here at 4:30 on 1620 The Zone. To talk about the game, we bring in from the Omaha World Herald, Mr. John Walker. Whiskey, how are you, my friend?
Hello. I'm good. I am very thankful as well because for the first time in what feels like forever, Creighton is going to play a midweek game that doesn't start at 8 p.m. So
yes,
my deadline, my sanity will be forever indebted to the Big East schedule makers for that. And here we go, man. One last go around in the regular season.
Are you looking for anything? Like, are you let's have a very candid conversation.
Yeah.
Here. Like, this is because I've known you now for a little bit. Like, we are, this is less than an interview, more of a conversation. Like, what does this game really mean for you? What does it mean for the next season? What does it mean for this season? Like, what is there anything that you're in particularly looking for?
Nah, not any one thing. Like, I think I mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago, I'm more so just kind of sitting back and watching to see, right?
Yeah.
I'm not looking for any one thing in particular, but I've been very outspoken over the past couple of weeks. I think when I said this at the time, they were about to play UConn. This was before the UConn upset. And I said, I personally viewed the final 5 games of the regular season as an audition for next year.
Yeah. That was great.
And
great
so
point
really,
by you,
really,
by the way. That we worked off
really
that for a little bit.
Yeah. Like really just kind of a continuation of that. Like at this point, you're not looking.
1 second, John. 1 second. Are you?
You're good.
Okay. No, you're good now. You had like a no. We're good, Peter. You had a weird thing going on in the background. You're good now. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah. So not any one thing in particular necessarily, but like what do these guys do? Like this team, as we all know by now, is not one thing away from being a good basketball team. It's just not, right? And
no.
And so I don't think we can go into tonight and say, okay, if Creighton does this, then you can feel confident that they can make some magical run in March. Like that's a really tall task for a team that has not won back-to-back games this calendar year. Matt, we are in March.
I know.
This team has not won back-to-back games since 2025. So, like, this team is not one thing away from going and winning 3 games in 3 days at the Garden, or what seems more likely, having to win 4 games in 4 days at the Garden. So that's the importance of tonight. Like Creighton badly wants a win to end the regular season. Like, no joke. But like that's the emotional pick-me-up that this group needs after losing 8 of 10.
Yeah.
And in like from a very practical sense, like Creighton can still get a first-round bye in the Big East tournament. Now the Jays need help. But it starts with a win tonight at Butler.
So you bring that up. Currently, right now, DePaul basketball 8-10. Now, if they get to that 9th win, DePaul, it's over. Okay, it's done. DePaul will be the 5 seed because they have the head-to-head tiebreaker against Creighton. Now, if Creighton wins tonight against Butler, they go to 9-11 to end the year. And then you're right. DePaul would need to lose to both Villanova, which they play them tonight at 7 o'clock, and then they play Butler, who Creighton plays today, on Saturday. So they could get a 5 seed with 2 DePaul losses and a win tonight. I'm not going to ask you, like, what do you think Mac is going to do or anything like that. I think it's been very well talked about and kind of published at this point that we don't really know. Like, we really don't know what's going to happen. And you can maybe go as far as to say is maybe Mac doesn't even know what he's going to do. But I do want to throw out something that I talked about to you, and I want to get your thoughts on it. I feel like a theme this season, John, has been this is a really tough system to learn in year one. And, bringing in all these new guys, it hasn't been the easiest for them to get this system down. And that was part of the growing pains that they went through in the month of November and December where they did not have the non-con that they were anticipating to have. Do you think there might be a little bit of trepidation for Mac, or it might factor into his decision of whether or not to come back because he kind of has to build the team through the portal once again and once again teach a plethora of players a new system that they have to get used to? Do you think that might factor into his decision at all?
Before I dive down the rabbit hole with you,
okay,
I would like to clarify that when I'm viewing roster construction, in my mind, a player is on the roster until they are not.
Okay. Fair enough.
So we just need to put that out there.
Fair enough.
So the only players that Creighton has to will lose this offseason are Josh Dix and Nick Graves. Josh Dix has been invaluable to this team on both ends of the floor. So that's going to be a big hole to fill. Nick kind of did his darndest to fill the shoes of Stephen Ashworth. And if you go back a little even further, like Ryan Nembhard, right? Like 2 back-to-back really good point guards came through Creighton. And so those were tough shoes to fill. But those are the only 2 players that Creighton has to lose. Now, am I naive enough to think that Creighton, that all of these players are going to stay, and that 2, Creighton wants to bring back all of these players? No, Matt.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not that naive.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think retention, even in this era, I think retention is so huge because, sure, they need to make an upgrade at point guard, right? And sure, they need to make an upgrade at center. But let's use a guy like, I don't know, Blake Harper, for example. Warts and all, you think that guy doesn't benefit from being in a program, let alone just any, not even Creighton. You think that guy doesn't benefit from being in a program for consecutive seasons? Of course he does. Yeah. Of course he does. So that's why, Matt, I said that the final 5 regular season games were so crucial, because you're not really I think that Mac and his staff have proven that they can teach the basketball. They had to do it in volume, in mass this year with 9 newcomers. But I think they've proven, and they have the track record that would show, they can teach the darn basketball. So now in my mind, you were thinking over the final 5 regular season games, how does this guy potentially fit next year's makeup? So that, Matt, here's why retention is crucial. Why Creighton had so much success in the transfer portal over the past few years, is because they didn't have to do an overhaul. Let's go back to last off season, right? Not this past summer, but the summer before last season. And we knew going into the portal that Creighton only needed a point guard or like a 2 guard in a wing to replace Baylor and to replace Trey, right? That's it. So they put all their eggs in one basket and they went 2 for 2 with Pop Isaacs and Jemiah Neal. I understand how the Pop Isaacs experiment ended, but he also helped them beat number 1 Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
$1,000,000%.
They went 2 for 2. Pop was the player that they needed at that position. And obviously we saw throughout the season, Jemiah, sure as heck, was the player that they ended up needing at that position. So they only had to do it twice, right? It's easier to identify 2 guys in positions of need than it is to bring in 9 new players. And so to avoid that, Matt, to avoid having to do the rigmarole next season, you have to retain players.
Yeah.
Who is that? Who showed over the course of this season, in my eyes, over the final 5 regular season games, that they could be a part of what Creighton wants to be next year? That's where that's so crucial. I don't think by any means you can run back this roster, but like, I don't think they're going to clear house either. I think Creighton's retention might shock people, because I think that we're going to hit portal season and everybody thinks that like everyone is leaving, and guys are going to leave because welcome to 2026. But I don't think Creighton is going to clear house, or that Creighton's house will be cleared in the way that some people think it will. But that's a long, meandering way to say, of course it affects Greg McDermott's decision, Matt. Like,
Yeah.
Of course it does, because he's been very outspoken about how this landscape is very different than the landscape of college basketball that he got into 30 whatever years ago, right? And of course it has. It's changed so much. And it had worked over what we now view as like the golden era of Creighton basketball, right? Over the past 5 years, anchored by one of the best players in program history in Ryan Kalkbrenner. So now that Creighton is in a new era as a program, and college basketball is in a new era in and of itself, I think this is the first time that Greg McDermott's probably had to say, like, okay, is what we're doing works?
Sure.
Like, is what, and obviously this season it has not, for one reason or another. But I will end on this, Matt. Like, one season is not really a barometer, because if they came back next year and went to the Final Four, would anybody? I don't know if that's going to happen. Right? Like, so many things have to happen for that to happen. But like, if they came back and went to the Final Four next year, would anybody really care about what happened this season? No.
No, they wouldn't.
They
wouldn't.
I think if you could tell Creighton fans right now, hey, this season, you went through this season so that you could go to a Final Four next year, everyone would be like, yep, sign me up.
Yeah, I get what I totally understand that. I think that's a no-brainer. Guess
but
what I'm
there's no guarantee you go to a Final Four.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is, like on a Final Four. Well, no, I know. I want to put this a certain way. If let's say they get to a Final Four next year, right? Do you think the best player on that Final Four team is on the roster right now?
The best player?
Because that's one of those things where we think of like, I totally understand what you're saying, because I agree. Like,
right.
I think I think I would keep Greer, and you keep McAndrew, and you keep Green, and you keep Fedor, and I think Blake Harper, and then you have the 2 freshmen coming in. I think Kieran Conan have shown some promise. Like, that's 8 guys right there, where it's like, okay, those might be viable options on the roster, and that's a decent amount. But at the same time, it's like, would you consider any of those guys like the elite level of type of player that you would need to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament? And how many holes do you still have to fill after that? Right. I understand the conversation about retention, but I still think that even if you retain those guys and the new guys that you bring in who are freshmen, there still is a lot to address on the roster.
Oh yeah. And I'll be the first person to tell you that. Like, they need to go get an elite point guard.
Yeah.
Like, it just is what it is. And with the way that Greg McDermott wants to play on both ends of the floor, they need to go get an elite center. Here's the problem, Matt. Everybody else in the country.
There you go.
An elite point guard and an elite center. And everybody else in the country, everybody else in the country is looking for those guys, and they don't come cheap.
No.
So that's where that's where this era of college basketball, it separates the haves and have-nots. And I think Creighton is a lot closer to the haves. I know, like, Creighton is a lot closer to the haves than the have-nots. But again, I'm not an idiot. There's clearly a gap. Okay. I was just watching Arizona State, Kansas last night.
Yeah.
Masamba Chop, right?
Yeah.
Tweeted about him. Heck of a ball player. Let's say he hits the portal this year. And Kentucky needs a center, and Creighton needs a center. Where are you going, Matt?
Kentucky.
See? So
Because they'll probably end up giving me more money too.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, that's reason number one. And I don't know. A lot of these, it's different for every kid, but like, if you're staring down a $3 million check compared to $1.5 million or $2 million, like, what are you gonna do as a 20-year-old, a 21-year-old? Like, man, I'm gonna double my money while I can.
I know,
right?
and it's another, but it's funny. There's a whole other different conversation of like, does that guarantee Kentucky's going to be more successful than Creighton? I wouldn't say that is the case either.
So,
you know,
no. So we'll I'm sure dive into all portal talk over the next 3 weeks or a month or so. Portal doesn't open till April 7th. But to your original point, like, no. Even I really don't know.
Sure.
If you asked if the best player for a hypothetical Final Four team next year is on this year's roster.
Yes.
And
I'd even go as far, John, as Elite Eight. Like, I'd even pull back. I'd even go, is the best player on an Elite Eight team currently on this roster?
I don't know, because we didn't get to see Jackson McAndrew's sophomore leap.
There it is. And I think
so. I don't know.
Do you think that a high ceiling of success for Creighton lies very, very heavily in how much Jackson McAndrew improves and recovers from this injury? Do you think a very large proportion of it? What do you if just answer that question. Does a large proportion of them going far next season lie within the improvement of Jackson McAndrew? Or is it elsewhere?
I think the portal center is a bigger piece of it, of the equation. And
okay.
That's not a knock on Jackson McAndrew whatsoever. And it more so has everything to do with the way that Creighton wants to play on both ends of the floor, especially defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Because we saw this year, when you don't have a true paint presence, and you don't even need a historic rim protector like Ryan Kalkbrenner, but when you have no apt paint presence, God bless Jason Green and his one arm and 6'8", 230-pound frame.
Yeah.
When you don't have a legitimate paint presence, it changes everything for Creighton. So it would mean that either the Jays have to abandon the drop coverage that they've become accustomed to and that Greg McDermott likes stylistically. Like, yeah, perfect. In this era of college basketball, if we can run teams off the three-point line and keep them from getting to the rim, yeah, screw it. Take a bunch of 15-footers and pray you make them, right? Like, stylistically it works, but when you don't have a paint presence back there to anchor the drop coverage, it doesn't work. So I think Jackson McAndrew's crucial. But I think with the importance of a legitimate post presence in Creighton's system, that is probably the most important piece of the equation to me.
Yeah.
And so I guess to answer your original question, no, that guy would not be on Creighton's current roster.
John Walker, hell of a convo as always. God bless you. We will talk to you next Wednesday, my friend.
Hey, how's Chamber? Did I heard
it was a great time.
Windy City
It was a great time. It was awesome. It was one of the cooler events I've ever been to. It was an absolute blast. Hey, by the way, real quick, can you clear the air here? That's you and Mac's relationship, right? I mean, I know that. I mean, a lot of people were kind of like, whoa, like Mac doesn't like Walker.
God.
Like, that's just how you two talk to each other.
Yes, if I have to go on record and state it very explicitly for the people who do not know by now, yes, Greg McDermott was kidding.
Yes,
on Saturday when he said what he said, right? Like everyone, you guys can go find the clip or whatever.
No, I knew it. I knew it right away because it's very because we've talked about it before, you and I.
Yeah,
but there were some people who were like, wow, he really doesn't like Walker. I know. I mean, I just want you to clear the air.
No, yeah, for sure. We're fine. Like yesterday, they had an availability yesterday, and before they started, like Mac razzed me a little bit more even. I think he said like, I always say, "Hey Mac, what's up? How are you?" And he said, "I'm good." And then he like stopped for a second and smiled and and was like, the past few days I had some time to read your stuff. I have an appreciation of it. Not a good one, but I appreciate it. Right. So like, of course. No, it was a joke. It was it was a joke.
Good.
Me and Mac are good.
I know you.
I'm good.
You're great.
So yeah.
You're the best. We will talk to you next week, my friend.
See you, Matt.
See you, John. Whiskey Walker, Omaha World Herald, the man, the myth, the legend. Yes. Did Mac deliver it a little cold when he said, "I never read your S anyway, John"? Absolutely. I know, because I know John well. That's been like an ongoing gag between them of Mac always giving him crap. But I guess, if you're not familiar with that, there are some people who are like, "Oh, I wonder if Mac doesn't actually he's actually, trashing Walker." He's not. That's how those guys are. Let's go ahead and we'll talk about Nebraska basketball very briefly in the 11:30 hour, or 11 at the bottom of this hour, I guess. And then we'll talk about them again at 12 o'clock. At 11:45, we're going to have the odd news with Peter Krenzer here on 1620 The Zone.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone. Now, back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
All right, we had a pretty big trade in the NFL during that interview with Mr. Sean Walker. Trent McDuffie, the all-pro Pro Bowler cornerback for the Kansas City Chiefs, on the move to the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams giving up a lot. It's kind of weird. The Rams went from the team that never had first-round picks ever. I mean, I think they went, what was it, like 4 or 5 years without using a first-round pick because they made multiple trades. Matthew Stafford, Jalen Ramsey, two of those guys involved in those trades with first-round picks. They end up sending their 29th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft to Kansas City, also with a 5th and 6th round pick in this year's draft, and then a 3rd round pick in next year's draft. So 4 draft picks going to the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City definitely, I mean, this is going to be a weird year for them. I mean, they're getting old. I mean, as the years have gone on, Chris Jones and Travis Kelce, they're not getting any.
A lot more question marks than they're used to.
Oh, big time. I mean, this is a team that went to 3 straight Super Bowls, and it's just kind of they let. I don't want to say it from like a I don't want to sound like I'm saying that it was malpractice, like letting Chris Jones get old and Travis Kelce getting old, but they've gotten old, and they kind of, you're in this. I always compare it to like Drew Brees won a Super Bowl with the New Orleans Saints, and then the Saints were competitive for a couple of years after that, and then they went on this like weird kind of like 3-year run where they were just 7-9, 7-9, and 7-9, and they weren't very competitive in the league. But that was because they were kind of turning over the roster from the veteran roster they had when they won the Super Bowl to, their next run that they were going to make. And they made that run and went to multiple playoffs after that until Brees eventually retired. Kansas City's kind of in that same transition now where that guard that won them all those games and, playoff games and Super Bowls and whatnot, that guard is gotten older and it's kind of passing. Yeah. So now they're in this kind of transition period, and this season will be strange for them because who's to say, if or when Patrick Mahomes will come back from his injury. So,
yeah, we still don't really know timeline on that.
Interesting trade. I think this is clearly, the Rams once again going all in. And
if there's one thing Les Snead's going to do, it's get rid of a lot of draft picks for assets to win now. And he's very good at that. He's very good at evaluating what's possible. And he's absolutely maximized the window with Matthew Stafford in LA.
If you want to play more man defense, the way to do that is getting an all-pro corner like Mr. Trent McDuffie. So we'll see what Kansas City now does. Mansour Delaney is the cornerback out of LSU. He's the top corner currently in the draft. It could be him who gets selected at that number 10 overall pick. I do like Caleb Banks. He's the defensive tackle that a lot of teams have been kind of pinning as to be a late first-round selection. Banks is a defensive lineman from Florida. He'll go ahead. I mean, he's been mocked to, the Bears, and has been mocked to some of those teams in the back half of the draft. If, D-line and maybe even edge too, for Kansas City are two needs that they would like. I mean, you got Cassius Howell from Texas A&M. He didn't have a great combine. He's kind of slipped down the draft boards, maybe to the advantage of Kansas City. If they like him, he could be available there at 29, the new pick that they just acquired for McDuffie, along with the fact that, look, 5th round pick, 6th round pick, 3rd round pick next year, just give you as many shots as possible to get younger and to bring in, a new regime of players. So, this is kind of Kansas City very much establishing, hey, we're kind of in the transition period, if you will, of their franchise and trying to get, some new guys in the fold. And hopefully, you take a year or two where you're not going to necessarily compete at the top of the heap of the AFC to acquire draft picks, make cap space available, and then make decisions that gives Patrick Mahomes kind of that second run at winning more Super Bowls. People often do forget, at the peak of his powers, Tom Brady went like 10 years, went a whole decade without winning a Super Bowl. And so, will Patrick Mahomes go another 9 seasons or 8 seasons without winning a Super Bowl? I would say I highly doubtful. I think that in the next 8 years, Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes, or maybe more specifically, Patrick Mahomes will win a Super Bowl. I'd be very shocked if that were to occur. But this is kind of the transition period Kansas City could potentially be going through with some of their older guys, with some of their key guys of Super Bowl teams now getting older. Let's talk about Nebraska basketball. Lost yesterday. I said it in our rundown. I'll say it again. I'm not going to treat basketball losses like football losses. This is not a referendum on this team. I really don't feel that much worse about this team's projections in the NCAA tournament now than I did 24 hours ago before they played this game at UCLA. I think it's just very easy to say they didn't play well. You know, they didn't really play all that well. They probably played their 40 worst minutes collectively this season. Did not shoot well from three. Did not shoot well from the free throw line. Also, that's got to be that was very strange to see, especially when you had multiple dudes come up short on the front parts of 1-and-1s. It just was not a good game at all from Nebraska. They go 5 of 24 from three, 9 of 18 from the free throw line. Very uncharacteristic. It's always hard to say that they didn't play well defensively when you only give up 72 points. That's very much a capable number to reach from an offensive perspective. But they definitely did make some mistakes that we're not accustomed to seeing them make. And, this is one of those games where they're a very aggressive team from a doubling perspective, especially on the baseline, and even, having that hard hedge on pick and rolls. Only 6 steals. UCLA had more steals than them. Here's a great stat for you. 4 offensive rebounds in the first half for UCLA. They had 9 second chance points off those 4 offensive rebounds. Yeah. They made those opportunities count. Nebraska had that one possession where they had 2 offensive rebounds, and Braden Frager, went ahead and knocked the ball off of the toe of Tyler Bilodeau. And then what happened? They missed that shot, right? So they had 3 different second chance opportunities in one possession, and they couldn't make it work. So just a bad game. I don't know really what to tell you other than it could be the road trip thing. It could be UCLA is just awesome at home. It could be a combination of both. Maybe they just rolled out of bed the wrong way and just didn't play well. I mean, this is just one of those things where it happens. There definitely is a takeaway, and I'll say it now, and I want to dive more into it. The slow starts have become a pattern.
And that's kind of what I was going to get to.
And it's the balancing act of, it's kind of happened all year long, like even dating back to North Dakota and Winthrop, earlier in the year, they've kind of battled through that and have been able to be as good as they've been with it, but it's just happening a little bit too often now. And we'll dive a little bit more deeply into that at 12 o'clock after the odd news with Peter Krenzer. But just overall, they didn't play well. And I said yesterday, I haven't really discussed Nebraska going to a Final Four. That's something that I haven't really brought up a whole lot on the show because I just don't think it's going to happen. And if you're going to make it to the Final Four, you got to beat high-quality Final Four type teams. And recently, losing to Michigan, losing to Illinois, losing to Purdue, they had lost to those teams. Losing to Iowa, that's not even a team that I would consider a high-quality Final Four team. They lost to them, right? So I said to you, if things could happen tomorrow against UCLA, if they could beat UCLA and become the second team to beat UCLA at home, and we see some things from Reek Mask where he stretches the floor and makes a couple of more threes, maybe I'd be more inclined to maybe pitch back that Final Four ceiling, just because they'd very much be on the way to being a 2 seed if they had beaten UCLA, and 2 seeds are the type of teams that make it to the Final Four. But they didn't. That didn't happen. And so I don't view that as their ceiling. But their ceiling definitely did not lower for me either. Like the 20-point loss to UCLA on the road did not make me think, oh, maybe this team isn't an Elite Eight team. Maybe this team can't win in the second weekend. Like, no, I don't think that. I just they played bad. I just think it's one of those things that, they just didn't have their stuff. They didn't have the high quality shots on offense that they're used to having. They got, pressured on the perimeter a ton from a ball handling perspective. The quality shots that they did make, they didn't make, or they did take, they didn't make enough of. They turned the ball over 7 times in the first half.
The uncharacteristic stuff like that. I believe it was out of the first time out that Fred took second half. First play, Kale dropping it off to Frager, and he has his back turned, and it's a fast break the other way for UCLA. It was just stuff like that where you could just tell that nothing was clicking. And the confidence was kind of rattled.
They had that run where they had a second chance layup, UCLA did, and then they had that play where they just left the guy who shoots over 40% from the 3-point line. They just miscommunicated and left him wide open. He had a shot.
Yeah, and they both retreated.
This Nebraska team is awesome at defense and is really good at communicating on the court. Like, they are always talking to each other. They're always pointing things out. They're always telling, hey, this is where you should be. And yesterday it was just, they literally left a guy wide open that cannot be left open. And 2 guys were guarding the guy who passed him the ball. Like, I was like, I haven't seen that all year. It just was one of those games for him. Once again, would you prefer for them to have this type of game in January? Yes, you would prefer for them to have it then, as opposed to having it in March, just a couple weeks away from the NCAA tournament and merely days away from the Selection Sunday. At the same time, though, I'm not going to press the panic button and act as if this team can't accomplish things in the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. They had a bad game. Well, they didn't play well.
Something that was harped on the broadcast that I found interesting, and this is by no means an excuse for the poor play last night. No Big Ten teams that go for their West 2-game trip have gone 2-0 this year.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty interesting, considering last year when Nebraska had to go Oregon, Washington, they did win both those games.
Well,
it's interesting how that dynamic
Yeah, Oregon
works.
was a little bit better last year. I mean, just kind of plain and simple, Peter. I mean, this UCLA team's really good at home.
They are.
And it was a funny comment yesterday from McCronin where they win a game and he still goes, well, if my team played like Nebraska every game, we'd have the same record, which is, very, very classic McCronin there in terms of, always having to kind of take a jab at his team, it seems like. But this is a UCLA team that is really, really good at home. They proved it once again. Their only loss this entire year at home has been against Indiana, which went to double overtime. That was a very weird game too. Or they've had 2 losses. So they had one loss in the Big Ten against Indiana at home, and then they've had a loss to Arizona. But it's one of those things where I'm not freaking out about it. I'm really not. They didn't play well. They did not have their best stuff. And by the way, too, that loss to Arizona, that was in California, but it wasn't at Pauley Pavilion. It was at the Intuit Dome. But
so one loss,
in their home court. I'm not freaking out. I am worried about one thing, but it's not necessarily about the UCLA game specifically. It's something that's happened consistently over the last couple of games, and that is the slow starts. We'll talk about that at 12 o'clock. But before we get there, let's go ahead and do the odd news with Peter Krenzer here on 1620 Zone.
And now we've reached the point in the show where Josh Odson reads the peculiar, the bizarre, the comical, the odd news with Odd Son. Odd news, Odd Son. See what we did there? The odd news with Oddson.
Alrighty, a couple things before we get to the odd news. Aaron Rodgers will be on the Pat McAfee show today. Mr. Tone Diggs. Well, I like Diggs. I'm a fan of Diggs. He's one of the pundits with Pat McAfee. And now it's 2:05 for Aaron Rodgers. So I believe that'll be Eastern time. So 1:05 Central time. Aaron Rodgers will be on the Pat McAfee show. Probably at this point announcing what he is going to do for his future. Will he be returning to the Pittsburgh Steelers for one final season, or will he be retiring? We will find out and see if another team will have a quarterback need. We talked about it yesterday. About 9 to 10 teams that probably need a quarterback, depending on whether or not for future purposes or current purposes. Steelers were on the list as a question mark. I think they need a quarterback regardless, in my opinion. I think that whether or not Aaron comes back or whether or not he stays or he retires, they need to go ahead and get a quarterback either to play right away or maybe take a younger quarterback in this upcoming NFL draft and have him develop under a Raj for a year. So we will find out the future of the quarterback position for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Assumingly, we'll find that out about 1:05 on the Pat McAfee show. Alrighty, Peter Grenzer, what is the odd news today?
Let's get to it. Well, okay, it's admittedly my finger's not quite on the pulse with like what is actually going on with this new burger at McDonald's.
Oh, wait, there's a new burger. Okay.
It's called the Big Arch.
Okay.
I don't entirely know like what is all on it. It looks like it's something that could be like an alternative to a Big Mac. And when they're launching it around the world, it's pretty new. And I guess the McDonald's CEO filmed himself, and I guess he does this regularly, like trying it out, eating it on camera and kind of like just basically selling it. And I've never seen one of these, but I watched this one, and he takes a bite of this thing, and there's no sugarcoating it. It's one of the wimpiest bites. One of the worst burger bites I've ever seen. Like, you can hardly tell he even bit into it. And then he shows the camera and he goes, "Look at that big bite," or something like that. Like, he was fully convinced it was a good serving. So it kind of blew up a little bit. And the Burger King CEO, rebuttals, not directly, but just has a video taken of him just biting right into a Whopper. Like,
look at me,
full force bite.
My bite is bigger than yours. I take bigger bites, therefore I make bigger burgers.
That was exactly what was going on.
Listen, nobody takes bites as big as I take bites.
Look at my Whopper bites.
Look at my Whopper bites. Look at those tiny little baby.
Many are saying my bites are the biggest bites of the burger.
Many are saying, Donald, your bites are bigger than any bites we've seen before. Yes, people are saying this. So, I'm seeing this video.
Maybe you saw the Big Arch bites. Very little bites, baby bites.
Chris Kempczinski, I think, is what I'm going to go with in terms of the CEO of McDonald's. It was a wimpy bite. Took a very wimpy bite. Very great that the Burger King CEO felt like that was a great opportunity to show that his bites are bigger. Very much the whole, I have a bigger button. He's got a tiny baby button. I have my big red button. So good for them. By the way, the Big Arch, I'm not going to judge people on what they eat. It's got white cheddar cheese, which is kind of different from McDonald's burgers. This also has crispy onions. So it's got the regular onions, but then the crispy onions as well. So it's the white cheddar cheese and the crispy onions, which makes it a little bit different than the Big Mac. Also, the Big Mac has that middle bun.
That's true. It does not have the middle.
The Big Arch does not have the middle bun. So those are the differences. I also believe this is a sesame seed and poppy seed bun. I'm pretty sure that it's only a sesame seed bun for the Big Mac. But I just want to, once again, no judgment. I'm not a health expert. Really shouldn't be giving health advice if we're being honest, based on my recent weight gain. But this burger is 1,020 calories. The health departments of the United States recommend 2,000 calories daily for healthy consumption. This is worth half of your daily calories. I'm not telling you
two big orange.
I'm not telling you how to live your life, but just from a math perspective, that's a lot of calories to eat in one meal, especially if you're getting the Coke and the fries, which you always should at McDonald's. Peter Krenzer, what's our second story?
Yeah, so a little bit of the reignited rivalry with BK and McDonald's.
Thinking coach.
We've got a little photo shoot coming out of Gainesville. New coach John Summerall. I don't know if this is something they always do with new hires, but they
can't be worse than what Brian Kelly did.
Yeah, no, oh god, no, definitely not. They did a photo shoot with John on the field in Gainesville with a live, fully grown gator, and he got hissed and snapped at during this whole thing.
I know gators suck. Why are you doing pictures with gators?
And I was kind of racking my brain, like, why would they go to this length? And he gave some pretty good quotes. He said, "I'm pretty certain I looked like Chubbs from Happy Gilmore if the alligator had gotten close to my hand." And he thought it was going to be like a 1 foot, kind of like a baby. And then he gets there, it's a 7-foot gator. And they said, "We're going to take some pictures. Here's how close you can get." And he's like, "During COVID, I wasn't even allowed to get this close to people." So, and like the photo, you can find the photos. He's pretty close to this thing. It's turned the opposite way from him. But yeah, I don't know how close I'd get to a 7-foot gator.
Taking pictures with gators is dumb. Everyone knows that I have an irrational fear of the gators.
I wouldn't say
not the Florida Gators. When am I ever going to really be around an alligator?
This is true.
If you're going to be around an alligator, it's like John Summerall, where you put yourself in a position to be around an alligator, right? Or maybe you're golfing in Florida. And if I were to see an alligator golfing in Florida, if I were to be next to a pond in Florida where a gator might be, I would probably just move my ball. We're not on the PGA Tour. I'll throw it back in the fairway, get myself away from that pond. Okay. So yeah, if you put yourself in an area around a gator and then the gator starts to mess with you, that's not the gator's fault. That's your fault for putting yourself there. That's my opinion on that. If Summerall's complaining about it, he's a dummy. Our third and final odd news story, Peter Krenzer.
So this one might be a little inside baseball a little bit, but I thought it would be appropriate for me and you to discuss on the heels of your trip to Elimination Chamber.
Yes, to Chicago. Yes. Great time.
So on Raw this week,
okay,
the
Monday Night Raw, WWE.
Monday Night Raw. Yep. It's kind of an unspoken thing. It's very well known. Luchadors, the mask is sacred.
Yes.
Luchador wrestlers, you don't mess with the mask. They wear it. And sometimes it's worked into stories where it's like, oh, maybe you lose the mask for this one thing, whatever. And that's kind of what happened on Monday in a match. One of the luchadors had his mask taken off. It was planned part of the finish. But it was such a quick, it was not meant to be like on like it was not meant to be framed.
You weren't supposed to see his full face.
You were not. It was, and his face immediately gets covered by the opponent. It was just a story thing.
Yeah.
And you're familiar with Sean Ross Sapp.
I am.
Yeah. He finds, and I watched it back.
Sure.
It was like maybe half a second where he would have gotten this screenshot. Shares the screenshot of the face of Dragon Lee, and people are just eviscerating him.
Oh, for showing
online.
For playing into that's stupid.
For sharing it.
It's on Netflix, dude.
And
it's on TV.
No way. I'm really not leaning one way or the other on it. It's whatever.
I'm leaning one way on it. I think it's dumb if you're upset about it.
But he was like,
Netflix.
I saw that this morning, like how many people were mad about it. And I'm like, oh, I gotta break this down with Matt.
Let me just make something very clear, and then we'll go to break because I want to talk about Nebraska basketball. The internet wrestling community is the internet wrestling community.
It's insane.
It does not speak for the actual wrestling community or the people who actually pay tickets to go to events. Okay. A lot of the people who go to events are children who are not on Twitter, or are mothers and fathers who are not worried about whether or not the work rate or You know, they're not worried about the 5 moves of doom or whether or not, Will Ospreay is selling moves enough or anything like that. They're not the crazy fanatic nerds on Twitter that are freaking out about this stuff. So when people look at the IWC, please do not judge everybody else.
This is a
wrestling fan.
very
They are not,
important
those people are
statement.
not a reflection on me or on Peter. Okay. Those
This
people
is
are
true.
crazy. All right. They showed the guy's face on Netflix and were freaking out about a wrestling reporter tweeting it out on Twitter. That's his job. He's supposed to tell you what happened. So that's dumb. It's stupid. The IWC is stupid. I used to be involved with it. I'm no longer involved.
And we are no longer.
By the way, they're the guy who retired AJ Styles and John Cena. They're trying to make him as much of a bad guy as possible. You do that by having him take a luchador's mask off. It's so dumb.
It is. It is.
You know
One
what
of the
isn't
things that
dumb or
gets,
stupid?
well, and clearly it got people riled up, man.
Yeah, at the wrong person.
Yeah, that's true.
Nebraska basketball, definitely not stupid. But look, I said before we did the odd news, I'm not worried about the team from this specific game. But I am worried about a trend that's been happening over the last couple of games. That they will not go far and reach the potential ceiling that they have if they continue this trend in the NCAA tournament. We're going to talk about that trend coming up next year on Middays with Matt.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone. Now back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Middays, Matt here on 1620 The Zone. Have some Husker hoops action later today at 3:30. The Husker women's basketball team will go ahead and be taking on the Indiana Hoosiers in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. According to ESPN Women's College Basketball Bracketology, the Nebraska Cornhuskers are in a play-in game. They are the 11th seed, projected to be in a play-in game against Princeton, which would take place in Louisville. So big game today for the Nebraska Cornhuskers women's basketball team, led by Amy Williams, the head coach, and Britt Prince. Big one coming up. I mean, like, that's the type of win where definitely going to put you in the right direction and locking you in the NCAA tournament for the Nebraska women's basketball team, who's currently projected to be in the play-in game in the NCAA tournament. So they tip off at 2:30. I keep saying 3:30 because that's when I first saw it, but it was Eastern time. So 2:30 Central time.
They're trying to confuse us.
I know. We're always, I hate Eastern time. I cannot stand Eastern
Make
time.
everything central.
Yes, thank you. I totally agree with you.
List
Also,
all
too,
the times as central.
talking about women's basketball here in the state, Creighton basketball, like John Bishop had mentioned in the break before on his recorded Creighton update. Creighton women's basketball, like you said, very young team. We had Jim Flannery on the show when we were at the Hope Lodge about a month ago here on Middays with Matt. This is a team that has, they were very experienced, had a ton of youth to begin the season. Started off fairly slow, especially in their non-conference games. But as the season has gone on, and those freshmen have no longer, have developed out of being freshmen and have gained more experience and have, shown the competitive stamina to play a Big East schedule week in and week out. They've won their last 3 games, and they're slated to take on the Marquette Golden Eagles in the first round of the Big East tournament. In their first game of the Big East tournament on Saturday, March 7th. That game will tip off at 1:30. The last time they played Marquette, it was at DJ Sokol Arena, where they defeated Marquette 80-74. So big game coming up for Coach Flannery and his crew in their first game of the Big East tournament on Saturday, and big game today for Amy Williams and her crew for Nebraska women's basketball, who take on the Indiana Hoosiers in their first game of the Big Ten tournament. Let's go to the Equitable Bank inbox, where they take banking personally. I went ahead and I said in our tease heading into this segment that, I'm not specifically worried about Nebraska basketball after what happened in yesterday's game as a whole. Right. I didn't watch yesterday's game, and the game completely made me freak out about what Nebraska can do in the NCAA tournament. But I am worried about one specific aspect of the UCLA game, not because it happened in the UCLA game, but because it also happened in the Maryland game, and it also happened in the Penn State game, and it also happened in the Purdue game, and it also happened against North Dakota, and it also, happened throughout the year. We talked to Robin Washut at 1 o'clock or 1:20 on Monday, and I asked him, "Are you worried about the slow starts, Robin? Does that concern you at all?" And Robin, gave a great answer. He said, "No, not really, just because they've done it all year and they've been able to battle through it." Well, they had a slow start against Purdue. They weren't able to battle through it. They had a slow start against UCLA yesterday. They weren't able to battle through it. They had very slow starts against Maryland and Penn State. And the reason why they were able to battle through it is because those are the 2 worst teams in the Big Ten. And the fact that we are now very much in a pattern of just Nebraska basketball, for whatever reason, just comes out of the gate and just cannot find their shot and cannot find their sets. And maybe they're overwhelmed by the initial pressure by, the defense that teams are playing on them. Just cannot get off to a fast start at all. And it's put them behind the 8 ball against good teams. That game yesterday, after, they were trailing by double digits in the first 10 minutes of the game. At that point, it was your run is not to take the lead, but your kill shot run is to cut the lead to 4. Your kill shot run is to cut the lead to 2. Your kill shot run is to put you, it doesn't extend your lead to 14 and it is an actual kill shot, your 10-0 run just makes the other team call a timeout and try and regroup, right? And I mentioned this, after the Maryland game, that run that they had against Maryland to take control of that game in the second half, and I think it gave them a 9-point lead against a team like St. John's, against a team like Kentucky, against a team like Kansas, against a team like Missouri or Arkansas or Texas A&M. If you get off to a slow start, that big run doesn't give you a lead. Instead, it just cuts your deficit down. And that's not, you shouldn't need to go on 10 runs against good teams in order to cut leads down. And it just seemed like yesterday I was waiting. And this was the difference between the game yesterday and the games that we've seen in the past for Nebraska. It seemed like even when they were down, 14 in the second half or, down 12 for a little bit, everyone was kind of waiting, all right, when is that big run going to come? When is it going to happen where Price hits a 3 and then Sam hits a 2 and then Rink hits a 3 and then all of a sudden they got to call a timeout and you come out of break and Jamarcus gets to the hoop. Like when is that coming? And it just never came. It never occurred. And it's one of those things where I think they just played a bad game yesterday. And the result of the game and their overall performance in the game doesn't overly concern me. But the fact that they got off to another slow start definitely does concern me. And whether or not, you're not going to be playing a Power 5 team in the first round of the NCAA tournament, most likely if you're Nebraska, but you're still going to be playing a high level mid-major team that, isn't a bad team. No team in the NCAA tournament is a bad team. And so you just cannot get off to those slow starts. And it does worry me that that's become habitual at this point for Nebraska. And I just don't think that you can always count on the fact of, all right, at some point we're going to get hot and we're going to flip the momentum and we're going to win the game, because it didn't happen yesterday. And it was the first time in quite a while where that didn't happen, right? They got off to the slow start against Purdue. They flipped the switch. They nearly won that game. They got off to a slow start against Maryland and Penn State and North Dakota, Winthrop, and they flipped the switch and ended up winning those games. First time yesterday where it didn't happen. And I'm not freaking out about it or changing what I think the ceiling of this team can be from a tournament perspective, but it definitely does concern me that that's something that they've kind of got caught up in and having bad starts. Steve emails, and he's a great emailer of ours here in the Equitable Bank inbox. It's a great email from Steve. I'm going to read it. It's a long one, so we'll read most of it here. Steve goes, good morning, Matt. I'm not keen on the narrative that Nebraska will be okay / they'll take care of Iowa on Sunday and we'll have a triple bye and they'll probably be a 3-seed or at worst a 4-seed in the NCAA tournament. 5 defeats out of their last 14 games have come to 3 ranked opponents and the other 2 losses were to unranked but quad-1 teams. Their true colors are starting to show against better quality as good opponents. Concerns are this team comes out at the beginning tip and are sleepy and they have way too many slow starts. Can't afford this in March. Teams are too good. Secondly, good teams are learning how to defend Nebraska. Nebraska has been forced into half-court sets more often this last month. Opponents have been more physical, aggressive on-ball defense, taking out Sanford out of his element. They have taken away his catch and shoot and clean opportunities. I totally agree, Steve. I think UCLA did that phenomenally last night. Thus, other teammates have not been stepping up or facilitating by getting the ball to the paint and the rim for easier shots, other than maybe Sam. That is true. I thought Sam, in the second half, it seemed like some of their best offense was giving Sam the ball and having him touch the paint. Their assist-to-turnover ratio dips against more athletic teams as well. I don't see this team getting past the second round. Looking at the possibilities of the seeds, they could see a Kentucky or St. John's second round. Just how do you think Nebraska would fare against athleticism of the likes? It's been a great year. They have been fun to watch, but I think they're hitting their ceiling. Your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, they beat Illinois on the road. They beat Michigan State at home. They should have won that Michigan game on the road. They had their 2 best players. There's no doubt they would have won that game. They went and beat an Indiana team, tournament team on the road, played really good basketball in that game as well. And I think I've seen enough offensive firepower from this team, along with collective great defense, for me to think that they can get to the second weekend. I'm not moving off of that. I do agree with John, though. The NCAA tournament is about matchups. And there's certainly, and this is why I'm confident that Nebraska is going to win in the first round, because I just don't think that there's a team that they would play, whether it be a 13 seed, 14 seed, 15 seed, or 16 seed, more than likely probably 13 or 14, that can really expose their, can expose their troubleness or their problems with physicality. And I don't think there's a 13, 14, or 15 seed that can expose the tough time they might have with teams that are actively more athletic than them. Yeah. That's just not the makeup of team you're going to get from a 13, 14, or 15 matchup. If Nebraska were to play St. John's in the second round, I'd be very nervous. Right? St. John's has the makeup with Bryce Hopkins and Zuby Ejiofor to do what Purdue did against Nebraska with Oscar Clough and Trey Kaufman-Wren. Zuby Ejiofor and Bryce Hopkins have the ability to do what Merkovich and Vonimir Ivicic and Tomislav Ivicic of Illinois did against Nebraska. Hopkins and Ejiofor have the opportunity to do what Andy Mara did against Nebraska, or along with Merez Johnson of Michigan. Like, yeah, if they were to play a team like that, I'd be very nervous. If they were to play a team like Houston, I would be very nervous. Not every team, though, that you're going to play is going to have the ability to do that, though. And so, yeah, there are specific matchups, absolutely specific matchups in the second round that Nebraska would hate to get. There's no guarantee you're going to get them, though. And also, too, I don't think Nebraska, the teams that are exempt from being afraid of certain matchups in the NCAA tournament are the teams that are going to win the NCAA tournament. The teams that can handle, like, we can match up against anyone, those are your 1 seeds, right? The teams that can match up against anybody are your Michigans, are your Arizonas, are your I'm blanking here. Your Dukes, right? Like, those are the teams. If we're talking about being exempt from, being exempt from having bad matchups, we're talking about teams that are going to win the NCAA tournament. Nebraska ain't going to win the NCAA tournament, and it's in part because was what Steve writes. They're not exempt from having bad matchups in the NCAA tournament, and they definitely do have some weaknesses. I mean, look, UCLA got 4 offensive rebounds and turned 9 points in that first half. That was a big deal. That was a really, really, really big deal. And yeah, I mean, I'm not so much concerned about the first part of Steve's email where he goes, 5 of their last 14 losses have been to high quality opponents. They didn't get blown out against Purdue. They didn't get blown out against Michigan. It was a very close game against Iowa. They just they weren't able to close out those games. And I'm not so much worried about the Nebraska doesn't play well against high-quality opponents, as much as I maybe am more concerned of, well, they couldn't close it out against Michigan, and they couldn't close it out against Purdue, and they couldn't close it out against Iowa. They just got outplayed against Illinois, So I'm not freaking out about that. And I think they just played a bad game yesterday. I really just think hey, West Coast road trip, pretty difficult. A lot of teams in the Big Ten haven't been able to go 2-0 in those road trips. UCLA is a really, really good team at home. They've proven it the entirety of the year. It was just one of those games. But I agree with Steve. This team could hit a bad matchup in the round of 32 and not make it to the second weekend. This team could also hit a bunch of really good matchups and find their way in the Elite Eight. I really do believe that, And so is the ceiling, and by the way, the ceiling is not the expectation. My ceiling for this team is Elite Eight. That's not my expectation, right? My true expectation is this: win the first NCAA tournament game, and then let's see the matchup in the round of 32. Because Steve's right. They play St. John's. That's going to be a tough game. They play a team like Kentucky. Could be a tough game. If they go to the Sweet 16 and they got to play Houston, that's going to be a tough game. That's going to be a really, really tough game. Texas Tech could be a tough game for them. Could be other games where maybe not so tough. Like, I don't hate how Nebraska matches up against a UConn. I don't hate it nearly as much as I do, if they were to match up against a team like St. John's, because they're just built differently. And I think St. John's, with their roster and how they play, especially on defense, is more in tune to expose some of the weaknesses on Nebraska that maybe a better, quote unquote, better team than UConn. But maybe, in my opinion, UConn isn't as equipped to expose those weaknesses of Nebraska basketball. Let's go to the phone line, Prairie Flower Casino hotline. Prairie Flower Casino, play longer, win more. You want to get in on the conversation, 402-951-1620. Been a fun show so far. We're going to bring in Doug, who wants to talk about the Huskers. Doug, what do you got for me, my friend?
Hey, Matt. Yeah, I agree with you completely. Get through the first game, should be doable, very doable. And then the second, look at what their matchup is. I completely agree. But I have a theory on why they start slow.
Okay, give it to me.
And yes, well, the book's out on how Nebraska plays, the system they run, the handoffs, the switches. And so like every team prepares that way.
Mm-hmm.
And they're energized at the start. They were doing the other team, the opponent did well, against their practice squad and covering switches and a handoff, et cetera. So that's just a slow start. I mean, their Huskers are guarded tighter. The handoffs are harder, et cetera. And by the second half, Fred makes some adjustments. The other team is tired, and the looks get better. So I just think other teams are better prepared and they're energized at the start of the game. And when you have a team that's not that good, below 500, it's easier. Even though they may, like a Maryland, but a team that is good, like a Purdue, they have the ability to sustain, that pressure longer, deeper into the game. And so I think that's why they start.
Thanks, guy. I appreciate it. Yeah, great call. I agree. And look, they've played almost 30 games now. There's a lot of tape on Nebraska. In particularly now, there's tape on teams beating Nebraska, right? Because we got to game 20, and the 19, the 20 games of tape that Michigan could watch, right? There wasn't a POC, a proof of concept of this is how you beat them, right? And I don't really think we got that full POC until that proof of concept of how to beat Nebraska until Illinois, where Illinois used their athleticism and their height, basically 1 through 8, to out physical Nebraska. And then Purdue kind of used that same concept. Now, I just think they had a really tough day against Iowa shooting the ball. They scored 52 points in that game. Like that, their offense just did not show up. And yesterday's loss, their offense did not show up. And, UCLA definitely used their length and their athleticism. And man, I want to give a lot of credit to UCLA. Like they made it tough. They made it really tough on Nebraska to get buckets. And they did a really good job of silencing Sanford. And, I love Cale Jacobson. But when Cale Jacobson and Sam Hoiberg are the guys that are keeping you afloat, that necessarily isn't the recipe to beating a tournament team like UCLA. And also, too, I think we got to factor in the fact that UCLA is awesome at home, but also, not to say that Nebraska didn't have anything to play for. Nebraska had plenty to play for. 10 quad 1 wins is a lot of quad 1 wins. That's the type of quad 1 wins that get you to a second seed, right? And they were on the brink of getting their 9th Q1 win before they go to the Big Ten tournament. But UCLA is very much on the bubble, and then they need a signature win, and they need something that's going to get them in the tournament. That was their opportunity. Got to give credit to, I don't care how you feel about him, Mick Cronin had his boys ready to go. And they went out and they performed. They shot 50% from the field. They had a good shooting night. Nebraska didn't. Like I said, I'm not specific, like the entire 40 minutes that occurred, I'm going to go with the fact that Nebraska isn't going to shoot 5 of 24 from 3 the rest of the way. I'm going to go with the fact that Nebraska isn't going to go 9 of 18 from the free throw line and leave multiple 1-and-1s at the front door. Like I'm going to go with the belief that is going to continue to happen because I've seen them do the opposite over and over and over again. But I am specifically worried about those first 8 minutes of the game. Because we saw those first 8 minutes against Penn State. We saw those first 8 minutes against Maryland. We saw those first 8 minutes against Purdue. We saw them even in November against, non-power, non-conference opponents. You play those first 8 minutes, especially in the second round. If you get to the second round of the NCAA tournament, that ain't gonna fly, Busker. You gotta come out and you gotta play better. Because when we get into crunch time, when we get into the real deal, when we get into the postseason, when we get into March, your goal, your 10-0 kill shot runs, your 12-0 runs, your momentum swinging shots shouldn't be to cut the deficit down. No. It should be to build the lead, or it should be to take the lead, or it should be to kill the game, Peter. Perfect. Kill shot runs should kill the game, not bring you within 4. And that's what kind of we've been doing here because of their slow starts. So you got to clean that up. Other than that, yeah, they just an uncharacteristic game. Maybe they got out of bed the wrong way. But you got to clean up the starts. Got to do that. We'll take more of your emails. We'll take more of your calls. We'll continue to talk about Husker basketball. We'll continue to talk about the NFL. Things are shaking and moving across the league. It seems like Aaron Rodgers is going to go ahead and make his announcement of whether or not he's going to rejoin the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into this season with Mike McCarthy as their head coach. We had a big trade. Trent McDuffie, a great cornerback in the NFL, for an all-pro cornerback, got traded for a first-round pick along with 3 other picks to the Kansas City Chiefs, who definitely are retooling to try and recapture the success that they had with Patrick Mahomes early on his career, trying to kind of tweak some things up so they can make another run to glory with their time with number 15 in KC. We'll talk about all that and more here on Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone. Now back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
I know Connor Happer, if he's listening, which I don't know if he is, probably not, is going to make fun of me when I say this, but I do miss going to press conferences in Lincoln. Can't go to them anymore because now, granted, very happy to have this show. Very, very happy to be on 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I guess it's just, the trade-off I get. I am able to have and very thankful to have my own show with my name on it. At the same time, would like, very much enjoyed going to Lincoln. To
it just
listen to these
so
press conferences.
happens most things happen in the midday.
They did, but we'll see what happens during the regular season, right? They're going to have some afternoon
with the afternoon practice
So do they
shifts.
go ahead and do they have night press conferences now? Probably not, but we'll see. Nighttime. All this to say, EJ Barthel spoke at the podium, talked to the media today, and I'm very anxious to hear what EJ said, just because, I think when we, here in Nebraska, and rightfully so, by the way, we've seen this happen. Like, we are very critical of assistant coaches, and we've seen the impact of what rooms and players can develop into when they have good assistant coaches, and what they don't develop into when they don't have good assistant coaches. EJ Barthel, definitely a guy that has flipped, I think, his narrative. I mean, we're talking about a dude who was rumored to, be the Texas, rumored to be in the Texas running back, coaching search with, I think people kind of were like, oh, that's weird. That's strange. There were just, I think he didn't have the most positive outlook on him as an assistant coach in the first 2 years of being here in Nebraska, in part because that running back room just didn't really pop in 2023. That you didn't, it didn't pop, right? And in 2024, the running game was fine, but I think people take away some points when you go ahead and you get a transfer portal running back at times, as opposed to developing guys that you inherited and you've had time to develop. But EJ Barthel had one hell of a year as an assistant coach, in my opinion. Obviously, Emmett taking the jump that he took, you got to give EJ a ton of credit for helping Emmett develop. And I think also, too, what needs to be said is that we talked a lot about, it's really disappointing in the Nebraska for Nebraska football that throughout the season, the players didn't get better, right? It was pretty disappointing in my eyes that we saw basically a very similar iteration of the team when they played USC compared to when they were in Kansas City playing Cincinnati. And, I think a big knock I had on the defense was, Riley Van Poppel and Cam Lenhart and all these guys in the D-line and, these linebackers and Javen Wright and Vincent Shavers, like, they kind of looked the same in week 11 as they did in week 1. Emmett Johnson did not come out in Kansas City and necessarily was the potential Doak Walker Award nominee right away. I mean, he averaged 4 yards a carry, had a fine game, but the first 4 weeks of the season, he did not play well against Michigan. But it was after that bye week in that Michigan State game where he really started figuring things out. And you got to think it's because of the in-season coaching that happened between Barthel and Emmett Johnson to take that jump. And then you also got to look at the recruiting aspect. EJ, very much a big part of, the recruitment of Trey Taylor. It's been very well documented. And, Trey Taylor's commitment has been one of the biggest things that's happened to the Matt Rule era of Nebraska football. It's Trey Taylor, not only just a really, really good prospect, seeing him play at that 7-on-7, throws a beautiful ball, already has some really accurate deep passes that we were able to see in Memorial Stadium, kind of throwing with that wind. But then he's been an incredible ambassador and peer recruiter for Nebraska. And Trey Taylor's commitment has gained a lot of momentum. Well, that was caused a lot by EJ Barthel. And then on top of that, Nebraska is bringing in guys from Mount Carmel. They're bringing in guys from Brother Rice. They're bringing in guys, they've been talking to guys from Homewood Flossmoor. They're bringing in a kid from St. Patrick's. All those schools in Chicago, who are Chicago high school powerhouses, top prospect from that city in the Midwest that has produced a lot of top high school football talent. EJ Barthel has been a major piece in getting Nebraska into that city, getting Nebraska to bring these high quality recruits on these visits and put Nebraska in real contention to continue to build on this momentum that they've built in this, so far top 10 recruiting class for the class of 2027. So I'm just very curious to hear what EJ had to say, because if there's a coach that has really kind of, I don't think the fan base was fully out on EJ Barthel. I never got that full vibe, but I did get the vibe of like, what has he really done? Well, in the last year, the man's done a lot. Got Nebraska into really good areas of recruiting, helped Nebraska secure one of the most important recruits that they've had in this era of Nebraska football, and helped the development of by far the best player Nebraska has had with Matt Rule, with Emmett Johnson. We'll see where EJ goes in the upcoming NFL draft. Hopefully he can be a day 2 pick and represent the Corn Huskers. So we'll see what EJ had to say at the stand. Let's do a little Nebraska basketball talk. We had an email here from Jeff. No, that was about Creighton. Let's go here. We had more Creighton emails than we had Nebraska emails. That's my apologies. But we'll go to another email in the Equitable Bank inbox. Equitable Bank, they take banking personally, from Sean. He goes, me and a good friend got called off a golf course on the mainland just off of Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. You ever been to Hilton Head before, Peter?
Never been to South Carolina.
Incredible.
I would love to go.
Hilton Head, man, if you like golf, they have a Ben Hogan course out there. I was able to golf that course. Absolutely awesome stuff. Also took a sailboat out in Hilton Head, South Carolina.
I've never done a sailboat.
Oh my God. You do some dolphin watching.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
Awesome.
That sounds good to me.
Sean continues. As we were carting in, I thought we drove by a big tree branch by a pond. I realized it was an alligator that was approximately 12 to 14 feet long.
Dang.
Just a giant. Went back to check him out from a good distance. Another car drove by, and the gator slightly moved his leg. I looked at my buddy and said, okay, enough. Well, John Summerall, what the hell are you doing? Messing around?
What are you doing?
What are you doing messing around?
Don't
with
get near
gators?
a gator.
Absolutely.
Average adult size gator, 11.2. So that was a big sucker that he saw. The average is like 11 feet.
That's a big one. 14 feet. My God, that would. I went to the Omaha Zoo and I went to the what is it? The Creatures of the Night or whatever.
Oh, Kingdom of the Night.
Kingdom of the Night. And my buddy who sent me to Kingdom of the Night knew that I had an alligator fear. And was like, you have to do it. You have to go.
Did he tell you there was gators
No,
down
he
there?
didn't. I had no clue. So he knew exactly what he was doing. And I walked up to like the barge and they got all the ducks and everything. And I had to take a deep breath. And I just walked on through. I did not see the albino alligator. I have no want or inclination or motivation to see an alligator that is white. I'm sorry. Not my cup of tea.
Have you
not my tempo. Not quite my tempo.
Because you've only not quite.
Are you
my tempo.
rushing or dragging, Peter?
So you've only been the one time to the zoo, right?
Yeah, I know, but I'm thinking about getting a zoo pass.
So I was gonna say sometimes I don't know the pattern when they do this, but sometimes they'll have the lights on in the Kingdom of the Night.
Okay.
And then you can really see just how many gators they have.
Yeah, I'm okay.
It's
You know
quite
what?
a few.
Yeah, that's great that you're having that PSA for people who might like alligators and might love the zoo. Not for me.
The real star of Kingdom of the Night is the beavers. I love the beavers.
I like the Desert Dome. There were some people who kind of explained to me that the Desert Dome was a little bit overrated. I totally agree. I totally disagree. I liked the Desert Dome. There are people who are trying to be like, oh, it's not that great. Yeah. I liked it. I like this. I love snakes. It's weird. I hate alligators.
The rattlesnakes is
but
pretty
as long
crazy.
as the snakes are behind a piece of glass, I'm totally fine.
Rattlesnakes is a cool setup.
We have a tweet at Matt McMedia. I'm not sold on Barthel. EJ's jump could have been more EJ. No depth was developed, so that says more about coaching, in my opinion. Look, I'm going to, and I understand what Anthony is trying to communicate. I first think that me being more sold on EJ now than what I was in the past has a ton to do with recruiting. I don't think you can look at what Barthel has done getting Nebraska into Chicago, his connections out there and his ability to make connections out there. It's gained a lot of momentum on the recruiting trail. for Nebraska. Barthel has been a big part of that. And, I'll just be honest with you, as somebody who was out there, growing up there, when Trey committed to Nebraska, I was able to, talk to some high school coaches out there and get their thoughts on them. And the immediate reaction was like, whoa, all right. I didn't know the Huskers moved like that. I didn't know that was something they could do. We didn't really anticipate that because that's not a area of the country, under Matt Rule that they were necessarily hammering home on. So I think, my looking at Barthel, and how his stock has developed, like that's a very big deal for me. But, Anthony, here's my response to that. If we're going to discredit coaches for not being able to develop players, and we give them no excuse as if like, well, maybe it wasn't the coach's fault. Maybe the kid just, this wasn't the right fit for him. If we're not going to give them those excuses, then I'm not going to say, well, it was just the player who did that. Like EJ Barthel is the running backs coach. He had a running back who went from a guy who had 2 Power 5, who didn't even get a Power 5 offer from the state that he was Mr. Football in. And he got him when he was, the 4th running back on the depth chart. And in the years that EJ Barthel coached Emmett Johnson, he turned into one of the best running backs in the country. Okay. Am I going to say Emmett Johnson was a total, all his success is because of EJ Barthel? No, absolutely not. But I am going to look at the guy who's his damn RB's coach and say, yeah, I'm going to give you credit because who was that guy getting coached by, every single day? EJ Barthel. Now I'll say this though, Anthony, if I want to add a little bit to your argument, Dana Holgerson absolutely has a massive piece of Emmett Johnson's progression and Dana Holgerson's offense and how the plays were called and Dana's belief in Emmett definitely had to do with EJ's development as well. So you got to give credit to Emmett or got to give credit to Dana as well as EJ Barthel. But I just think the duality of, man, they're hitting the recruiting trail hard in a place that, has a ton of talent, and it's in part because of EJ Barthel. And the fact that the best player that Nebraska has had, in the Matt Rule era has come from his room. I absolutely have to give him credit. And I absolutely do have to say that he has flipped the narrative from being a coach of, okay, maybe you don't know a ton of, maybe you're not fully bought into what he's produced to. In the last year, he's done a lot of really, really good work, really good work for that program. And which is why I was very curious as to what he has to say, because he's definitely gone from a coach of, okay, what is his contributions to, you can totally see his contributions right in front of you. Alrighty, coming up next, we'll talk a little bit about the NFL. We're only about 15 minutes away from finding out what Mr. Aaron Rodgers is going to do with his future, and we are 11 minutes away from revealing our wacky guest for Wacky Guest Wednesday. I have no idea who we're going to interview at 1 o'clock. Only Peter Krenzer knows, but you'll find out with me here on Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone. Now back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
I have some vibes this season with Nebraska football that I think he had some similar vibes in their first season in 2023. And what I mean by that is you are getting a former ACC quarterback who, while he was in the ACC, made a lot of turnovers. And that is a point of concern heading into this season. And you have people asking their coaches about, hey, previous turnover concerns and whatnot, and whether or not that former ACC quarterback will be able to fix that. And then you also have a running back situation, which is kind of up in the air. I think most people are of the belief that Mekhi Nelson is going to be the number one guy, especially after he was essentially the number two guy last season under Emmett Johnson and then had the spring game that he had. It's just it's interesting how it comes full circle. You go from the last 2 years where who the quarterback is going to be and you have somewhat of an idea of what the running back room is going to be, and then a couple seasons later we're back to having a former ACC quarterback who had turnover issues in a running back room where you're just kind of on pins and needles waiting to find out what the actual order is going to be, right? Is it going to be Mekhi and Mosey? Is it going to be Mekhi and Jamal Rule? Or, according to EJ Barthel, Quinton Ives, once again, is having his best spring thus far. Haven't heard that one before. So we'll find out. We'll also find out in the next couple of minutes whether or not Aaron Rodgers is going to go and continue to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. His decision, seemingly, I mean, it's not confirmed, but he's going to be on the Pat McAfee show, one of his best friends, better friends in media at least, at 1:05 here in the next 10 minutes. Kyler Murray went ahead and got released by the Arizona Cardinals. No longer going to be the gunslinger in the desert. He will instead find a new home. Where will that new home be? A lot of options out there. Could it go to Indianapolis if Daniel Jones chooses to go elsewhere after the transition tag was placed on him yesterday? It was like the first time in a couple of decades we've seen that be used on a player.
The Colts love to do things that no one else does.
Yes.
Most of it terrible.
Like hire Jeff Saturday. That's always a fun thing. Or, bring in Phillip Rivers, who hadn't played a game in 5 years. The Colts are always finding new and creative ways to be a middling franchise.
We're trendsetters over in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I don't know if that's leading to success necessarily. Kyler Murray could go to Kevin O'Connell and the Minnesota Vikings. Well, could Kyler Murray be the second time that Kevin O'Connell takes a top quarterback pick in a previous draft and makes him into the quarterback that people thought he would be at his first stop? Could Kyler Murray then sign with the Seattle Seahawks and win them a Super Bowl? Will history repeat itself? Probably not, but I think it'd be, if I'm a quarterback, if I'm an agent of a quarterback, I am calling the Minnesota Vikings and trying to use my connections to plant the seed in their heads that my quarterback client is a better option for the Minnesota Vikings than J.J. McCarthy. Orchid J.J. McCarthy, if you will, because he's always getting hurt. Always wilting is J.J. McCarthy. So we will see there. It should be a interesting free agency period. Where Max Crosby go? Kind of at this point right now, it's the Cowboys and the Bears are the two top teams that a lot of people are pointing to as to where he might end up. We'll talk about an article later in the show that was very interesting. That kind of paints a bit of a mess happening in Las Vegas surrounding not just Max Crosby, but the entirety of the operation over there. It seems like Vegas is trying to go for a Michael Parsons deal that includes 2 first-round picks along with a player. We'll see if they end up getting that. I'm of the belief that Vegas should just sell the whole farm. They should trade the number 1 overall pick. They should trade Max Crosby. They need to rebuild that roster in the most desperate way possible, and you're not going to do that. Vegas is not a pass rusher and a quarterback away from being elite. They are a lot away from being elite. So give yourself a chance to get a lot is kind of how I see it. Also, too, the Chicago Bears are going to be interesting what they do after Drew Dahlman retires at the age of 27. I wouldn't call him a great center, but definitely one of the better centers in the NFL. Got a 4-year deal last year. Ends up only playing 1 year of that. The Bears will get back about $11 million in cap space. Tyler Lindenbaum is a guy who is going to reset more than likely the center market around $20 million a year. the Baltimore Ravens center. Could he return to Baltimore or could he go elsewhere? Tyler Biotish, the former Wisconsin Badger center who was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, was then re-signed by the Washington Commanders, was one of the better pickups about 2 years ago for Washington. He got released. He definitely will be picked up somewhere, not reset the center market by any chance, but make a decent amount of cash for his services. So we'll see what the center market looks like and what the Bears might do. We'll also find out coming up next who the Wacky Guess Wednesday is on Middays with Matt. Should be a good one. Peter Krenz are going to put in the call while we send you to break here on 1620 The Zone.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone. Now, back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
All right, it's a Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Peter Krenzer, what do we got?
This is exciting. This is my first wacky guest Wednesday.
Yes, it is a wacky guest
And so I have not had the pleasure of talking to this gentleman in person or at all until today. So this is exciting for me too. It's a great friend of the show. He's always in the comments. He's always listening. It's Bet-Free Mike himself.
Wow. Bet-Free Mike. Mike, how are you, my friend?
I am doing well. I'm actually in the third floor of the UNL Student Union right now taking this call. So kind of in your guys' old haunts over here.
Yes, you are. Bet-Free Mike. Wow, what a journey for you and I. I believe we met each other at the College World Series, correct?
Yes, I brought you guys the cucumbers, the Martyr batons.
The Martyr batons. It was great meeting you then. It's great having you on the show today on our wacky guest Wednesday. As always, 888 bets off with our favorite Bet-Free Mike. It is actually Sport Gambling Awareness Month, correct? Can you tell us about a big month ahead for you?
Yes, March is Problem Gambling Awareness Month.
Yes, it is.
So it's a big time for us. We're doing a lot of work out in the community. Do a lot of work with proclamations, screening info tables. That's why I'm down at the university today. Was doing an info table down there. Do a lot of presentations. In fact, I was over at UNL Sports Media over at College of Journalism on Monday giving a presentation.
Wow.
And so
Nice.
all of your old friends over there are still good. So do a lot of media hits like this. Just do a lot in the community at this point, just to give as much information as possible about problem gambling and the consequences and the resources that are available for treatment.
Mike, you have been a very long listener of me on the airwaves. I feel like you are, whether it was the morning show or now the midday show, you have always been listening to me and all of my takes and whatnot. Would you consider Matt McMaster a responsible gambler? If somebody came up to you and said, hey, Matt McMaster likes to gamble a lot, is he doing it the right way? What would you say in your honest opinion, Mike?
Honestly,
yes.
You are very open about your gambling.
I am.
You're very open about what you do. A lot of the rules that I have as far as responsible gaming go are that you set limits on time, energy, and money. You've always talked about setting those limits.
Yes.
You've always had accountability partners. Literally everybody in the listening audience is your accountability partner because you're always talking about it. So that's always good. And I think you treat it as an entertainment expense and you don't look at it as your means of income, which is the key piece to all of this as well. So yes, I definitely think that you are a responsible gambler.
Mike, I want to get your opinions on this because, gambling in sports and the collusion aspect of it has been a very big topic that we have been dealing with for basically now a year. And, it seems like it kind of started on the lower level, right? Where it was some of these mid-major basketball programs, D2 basketball programs. And it kind of also started too with some athletes gambling on NCAA college basketball games that they weren't a part of, but they weren't allowed to gamble on those games as NCAA athletes. Now it's turned into, there was an article today that, the Chauncey Billups case that had to do with rigging poker games and whatnot. And then also had to do with some, there was a whole other case that has to do with, potentially giving out player reports that give bettors advantage, some inside info that, the public wasn't allowed to have. And they, insider gambling and stuff like that. That is at the forefront. We got news today that there's going to be a lot of plea deals when it comes to those cases. What is kind of your outlook in terms of gambling affecting sports in terms of the collusion aspect, and what are the steps being taken to stop some of these instances like Terry Rozier and Jonte Porter from continuing to happen?
Well, I think the biggest piece to it is that if it's done legally, if it's done through legal sports books, if it's done through the legal channels as opposed to doing it through bookies or doing it through prediction markets or anything like that. Anytime you get any sort of illegal piece to it, you're going to have more issues with possible collusion, possible tampering, that sort of thing. So I am actually, in my role, I'm 100% neutral on the stance of legal gambling in Nebraska and beyond because you can put those safeguards in place. So for me, I'd rather see it legal. I'd rather see it taxed. I'd rather see it actually some of the money go towards problem gambling prevention and treatment. And you have less of these issues overall. You also then, a big thing that we're also hearing about, especially in other states, is a lot of harassment via social media
Yes.
for athletes, whether it's pro athletes or college athletes, literally to the point of death threats, to just some really toxic behavior amongst bettors who are losing money off of student athletes and then taking it out on them, unfortunately.
Mike, what's your opinion on, and this is kind of a hot button topic, on player props, and particularly unders, right? It seems like that is the type of stuff that if there's going to be collusion, it's players being paid a lot of money to then ask out of games early and stuff like that. Do you think that player props, and even from a overs perspective, right? You talk about the harassment that players get from social media from fans who don't win their bets, right? That comes from they bet them to get over X amount of points or X amount of rebounds or whatever it might be, and they don't hit on that. What is your stance on player props, and is there any conversation that you might know about of potentially removing some or limiting them or anything like that?
It is a twofold problem with prop bets. Number one, they're more addictive.
I agree with that.
You can place more of them. You can get more wrapped up. Instead of making one bet on a game, you're going to making 10 bets on a game because you're betting all these different props. So in that regard, it can become more addictive. But you're absolutely right. The amount of tampering that can go on with that is so much greater because, I mean, in the world of NIL and everything else, you're going to have these mid-major players, whether it's basketball, whatever sport it is, who aren't getting the NIL money that they feel like they deserve or anything else. They're going to look to other ways to do it. And if you can miss a pass or not make a free throw or do something little to make that happen and get a paycheck out of it, like a former Nebraska ball player, he went to Tulane. I think he got paid like $30,000 to those at that level. You're going to see more of that. And honestly, more of the problem gamblers hang out in that world. When I was at the midst of my betting, I bet more mid-major basketball than anything because there was less eyes on it, and I thought I knew the sport better than other people.
Is there any tools, maybe external tools or tricks of the trade in terms of setting better limits if somebody is having an issue with gambling? In your opinion, this is kind of your expertise.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of. There's different tools out there. Like I use an app. It's called Evive. My friend is who is the one who created it. It has a lot of different techniques on it for both people who are looking to stop gambling, but also people who are looking to do it responsibly. There's budgeting tools on there and stuff. I think the biggest tool, though, is just having a budget in general. Yeah. And if you set those limits, and holding yourself to those limits is the huge piece to it. If you can, that's the difference between a responsible gambler and a problem gambler in my eyes, is if you can't set those limits and you can't stick to them, or you set them and then you're like, well, you start chasing those losses. That's the difference right there. So I think that if you can do that, if you can find a tool that helps with that, great. If you can do it on your own, great. If you can't do it, then that's when you need to start looking for help.
Do you have any opinions on the people who consider themselves expert gamblers and have made it into a career where they go ahead and, the numbers do show that there are winning gamblers out there, right? That there are quote unquote experts who, through their numbers, that they've shown that they win a higher percent of the time than they lose. Now, that's from a record perspective. Sometimes that can get all chopped up in units and whether or not they're actually winning money. But do you have any opinion on the people who use gambling as a profession and then sell their picks for a profit?
You have to be very leery of those people because for every person that says they are a quote unquote expert, there's probably five out of 6 of them really aren't experts, or they're manipulating their numbers somehow. They're not talking about units. They're talking about win percentage.
Sure.
They're talking about different things. They're not talking about their own. And let's be real, Matt, if they are that great at their profession, if they're that great at betting, why do they want others taking their own bets from them? Because that's just going to ruin their number in the long run anyway, and just going to hurt their own profits
Yeah.
off of that. So
I
always
do
just
think
be
there's
leery of
the
those people.
yeah, I do think though, in that, and I understand that argument from you, Mike, but I definitely do think there is that you want to make the money up front, right? If you can make your money before you actually put down the bet, I think that's kind of the outlook on that. But I ask you because you're right. I mean, I think that there are some people who you kind of see online and they're legit, right? And their units kind of match up and they're very good at it and they put a lot of effort into it. And if you want to make that investment, that's totally up to you. But then you're spot on. There's plenty of those guys out there that definitely are fishy, and definitely, and then that's why I ask you, because I think that there are some people who definitely need to be wary of that. Like you said, it's probably problem gambling awareness month. Bet free Mike on here. Mike, I apologize. How do I say your last name?
Chandra.
Mike Chandra.
Yeah.
What your biggest tip and the number one message that you want to get out for people listening to 1620 The Zone is this is the problem gambling awareness month?
The biggest thing is that there is hope and there's help, and that in the state of Nebraska, there's absolutely free treatment for anyone who's struggling with their gambling behavior. The best number to call as far as that goes would be 1-833-BET-OVER. That's 1-833-238-6837. And the person who answers on the other line is somebody in Nebraska. He's a disordered gambling counselor who's local in Nebraska. He will get you to the resources that you need for treatment, or if you're in a crisis situation, he can help you with that as well. But the main thing is that, I'm very open with my story that I'm a problem gambler in recovery. And when I'm out in the community, I always want to let people know that they're not alone if they're struggling with this, or if they have a friend or a family member that's struggling with this. They're not alone. There's help out there for them. There's hope, and there's definitely resources out there to help them.
Mike, you are the executive director of the Nebraska Council on Problem Gambling. We love gambling on Middays with Matt, but we love responsible gambling on Middays with Matt. And we're so thankful that you are often in our chat, often emailing us, calling us, giving your opinions, because this is I don't get me wrong. I like putting a little scratch on things, but we got to do it the right way. Gambling can be a fun thing, and it shouldn't be. And I respect your work in terms of making sure that it doesn't ruin your life, right? And ruin your relationships with people. So we have so much respect about what you do. The executive director of the Nebraska Council on Problem Gambling. It's Problem Gambling Awareness Month. It's Mike Chandra. Mike, thank you for being a Wacky Guest Wednesday participant. We really appreciate you, my man. And we thank you for all the kind words here and your participation within the show and everything you do around the community when it comes to problem gambling.
Well, I appreciate you, Matt. And if anybody has any questions for me, they can always visit www.necpg.org. And yeah, I just appreciate everything you guys do. And you guys do a great job of talking about it. I give you a hard time, Matt, but you really are great at this. So you have it under control. And if you don't ever have it under control, you know who to reach out to.
Absolutely. Mike Chandra of the Nebraska Council of Problem Gambling,
Thanks, Mike.
The executive director, Bet Free Mike. Hey, great. That was awesome. Like
another great get by Josh.
A great get by Josh, but it was very appropriate because it is the Problem Gambling Awareness Month. And Mike is an incredible resource on that, and the executive director of that council, and gave us, I asked him some national questions, but also asked him, the stuff that he's in the expertise of. And so gambling has just become embedded in our culture so much more. Just as a society over the last couple of years, right? It's kind of become this phenomenon where if you watch sports, it's almost a prerequisite that you do a little bit of gambling. And, we do Dog of the Day. I'm meant to lose on Dog of the Day, right? Because I'm taking underdogs, and that's supposed to be kind of a fun little thing that we like to do. And, it definitely will pick up when we get into football season, which is my expertise. But that what do we talk about when we do Dog of the Day? We talk about $5 bets. We talk about $10 bets, right? And I'm somebody who I very much enjoy gambling, but I hate losing money. I do. I hate losing money. And so it comes down to the fact of it's always fun, like Mike said, to set limits and to have yourself a budget and to make sure and to hold yourself to that budget and to look at, I look at gambling as a fun activity that I can do that. When I bet something, I almost kind of look like, all right, if I end up winning, great, awesome. I'd love to win. But it's not one of those things where it's like, hey, I'm not going to be able to eat tomorrow if, Indianapolis, the University of Indianapolis doesn't end up beating, Green Bay, right? That's it's always it's always great to have a resource on like that in terms of Mike and let people know who, if you do have a gambling problem, there's always resources for you to help stop that. But we love to promote responsible gambling here on 1620 The Zone and on Middays with Matt. And so we appreciate Mike for coming on and helping us out with that. Coming up next, we'll go ahead and talk about some more things going around in the NFL. We'll also talk about Creighton basketball. They play their final Big East regular season game of the season against Butler tonight. You can listen to that on 1620 The Zone. We'll also go ahead and talk about some of the things that have been said about Glenn Thomas, things that have been said about Anthony Calandria and Danny Kalin and EJ Barthel and more after a lot of the media now posting their recaps of all of the media that just went on in Lincoln. All of that and more coming up at Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone. Now back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Alrighty, been reading here on Husker Online after at the podium we had Glenn Thomas, quarterbacks coach for Nebraska football, EJ Barthel, running backs coach for Nebraska football. All three potential quarterbacks for Nebraska football, Danny Kalin, TJ Lateef, and Anthony Calandria, spoke at the podium along with Quinton Ives and Isaiah Mosey. A couple things to mention here. Mosey says that when he got to Nebraska, he weighed 195 pounds. He's now up to 215 pounds. That's interesting. Putting on a lot of weight. EJ Barthel said that right now that Jamal Rule is taking snaps with the 2s and 3s in spring ball, so he's not taking reps with the 1s currently. And it does kind of seem like now he didn't specifically say who's taking reps with the 1s, but Mekhi Nelson certainly is. Talked once again a lot about Quinton Ives, who was at the podium today. And I've said that the month of December really gave him a lot of confidence he's carried over to the spring. Dana Holgorsen did kind of mention part of the reason why they didn't go and get a transfer portal running back was because of Quinton Ives' strong December. Another thing, too, that this isn't the first time I've heard this. Talked about this with some of our guests on the show and, kind of hearing this from other things that we read and other things that you hear, that Quinton Ives said this about the offensive line. I've said they are big. I can tell you that. He also said they all can run. And I think that's been a big emphasis on the offensive line and something that Jeep Wade is definitely recruiting to, the athleticism aspect of the offensive line rising up and going up. And I think that's kind of something, a trend that we're hearing and recruiting, and Nebraska football is recruiting to in terms of the offensive end, the increase in athleticism. Quasi Gilmer definitely is the number one guy that you're reading things about and hearing things about when it comes to spring football. I mean, he's making a pretty big impact right away. Sam McEwen and Evan Bland kind of did their run through of certain things that they're keeping an eye out in terms of Husker sports. And one of them is who are the guys that you're hearing are really popping at spring football. Sam wrote that Quasi was one of those dudes. And so definitely something to keep an eye on in terms of that. Wide receiver room is going to have a lot of athleticism and potentially a lot of depth. We've definitely seen last season what Ja'Cory Barney and Isaiah Hunter can do. And we've definitely seen, especially, we saw it in Lincoln, what Quasi Gilmer can do, and seen what he can do at UCLA. Definitely a top level athlete. Just going to be about that wide receiver room. I look at Barney, Hunter, and Gilmore just from their previous performances and last season's and previous season stats. I think those guys are currently 3-2s. They're 3 number 2 wide receivers, which isn't a bad thing to have at all. But I don't think that you have currently right now on the roster the for sure, hey, number 1. You don't have a Jeremiah Smith. You don't have a Cardinal Tate. You don't have a Casey Concepcion. You don't have a Jordan Tyson. You don't have Tetero McMillan. Like you don't have that number 1 top guy, Amon-Ra St. Brown with USC, potential day 2 draft pick yet. Could one of those guys develop into one of those types of players? Could they get better and make those improvements? We'll see. It's going to be a pretty big year for Da'Keel Shorts. I think a lot of people have talked very highly of Da'Keel coming from Kentucky, being one of Dana Holgorsen's guys. This will be a very big year for him in terms of judging him based on his results as a coach, just because he's got a room that not only has 3 guys that you immediately pinpoint as starters, but a couple of other interesting pieces with Keelan Smith along with Quinn Clark that a lot of people seem to be pretty high on in terms of their talent. But Gilmer, definitely a guy that's been popping. Another interesting quote that came from the press conferences is EJ Barthel saying that he thinks that Isaiah Mosey is a true running back now. I think plenty of times last season, this was a observation that Gary and I made immediately from last season, was he still looked like a wide receiver trying to play running back. There's a lot of potential there, especially to be versatile and multiple in terms of the things that Isaiah can do. But it just seemed like he was just a little too hesitant and second guessing himself and didn't just put his foot down and hit the hole. I mean, granted, I think EJ, Emmett Johnson had that problem at times earlier in the year. And when he solved it, he became one of the best running backs in the country. I love the potential of Isaiah Mosey. And I think that last season, there definitely was a transition into going from one position to the next. The fact that Barthel is willing to kind of put his foot down and say, no, this wasn't just kind of we needed a depth thing. He is a running back now. He's a true running back now that's put on 20 pounds. Definitely is something encouraging when it comes to the depth at running back. And so they're going to do it, they're going to do it by committee. And this is the way that they've chosen to do it. I mean, the running back position isn't necessarily a position that they've invested a lot of resources into, right? They've gotten one transfer in the 3 seasons from the running back room at Dante Dowdell that's come and produced for them. And they haven't been able to get that top running back prospect secured and on campus. They got a commitment from Kawan Lacey, but he eventually went to Ole Miss and played in the college football playoff last year. That's a position where they've seemingly haven't put a ton of financial resources in, at least in comparison to the quarterback or to the offensive line or, to the wide receiver room. But, they really trust in their coaching and they really trust in their development of that position. And I think that they think an investment at the running back position definitely goes through the offensive line because they've invested a ton in the O-line. And by the way, I'm all for it, baby. I ain't complaining. I like that they're putting money in the trenches. Put the money in the trenches. And a great offensive line can make a good running back a great running back. A bad offensive line can make a great running back a good running back. Look at Ashton Genty on the Las Vegas Raiders last year, right? I mean, look at what's happened, back in the 2010s, the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles, they always had some pretty good run games, but it's not necessarily they had superstar running backs that could go anywhere and be great. Why is that? Because they invest in the offensive line. Put some money in the O-line, baby, let them block and let a running back run. So, was I a part of the camp that I would have liked them to go and get a running back with more experience on the roster? Absolutely, I was. But am I happy that they might have taken some of that money they couldn't put in the running back room and put it in, getting Babalade and getting Mubenga and getting Black and getting guys who have started a lot of football games and have a ton of experience? Absolutely. Absolutely. So we'll see how the running game looks this season when it comes to, did they put a lot of money in the running back room? No, but is there a possibility that they're going to have an effective run game because of what we're hearing about the offensive line? Absolutely. Am I going to drink the Kool-Aid and tell you right now that the offensive line is going to be a massive strength and carry Nebraska to victory? No, I'm not going to do that because we did that last year. And while the run game was a strength, the pass blocking was definitely not a strength. But you definitely like what you hear in total when it comes to what they've invested in that position. Jeep Wade, you haven't heard. Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard one negative thing about Jeep Wade, and not just from a coaching perspective, but also from a recruiting perspective. It seems like they are definitely earning the investment that they put into that position to get him from Georgia Tech. So, I like Brendan Black, offensive lineman from Iowa State, played a lot of football. You're hearing really good things about Elijah Pritchett, not only just from him continuing to become a better player from the momentum he built at the end of the year, but also from a leadership perspective. So I'm loving what I'm hearing about the O-line. And what I hear about the O-line makes me feel better about how I feel about the running backs. I know it's a little bit of a low-hanging fruit thing, but with all the words that have been expressed about running backs in the past and then those results not necessarily being put in front of my own eyes, I'm not necessarily buying that, but I am buying the fact that they invested in the offensive line, that they got guys who have experience of the offensive line, that they got guys who a lot of guys were in Mubenga. A lot of guys wanted his service. Right? Nebraska had to compete and beat a lot of top teams, and we heard from Matt Rule, Jeep Wade wasn't going to let that happen. All right. Jeep Wade wasn't going to let Alabama or whoever else or whatever SEC team wanted to go and get that guy. He wasn't going to allow Paul Mubanga to go anywhere other than Nebraska. Right. And so that's a guy 6'5", 315 pounds. Hell yes. Gimme. So I'm liking what I'm hearing. I love athletic. I love fast. I love that they can run. I love that. It's music to my ears. Am I telling you they're going to win 9 games? No, I'm not. Kind of dipping my toe in it, though. Maybe the Kool-Aid meter's going up just a little bit, but
we like athletic.
I like big offensive linemen. Right? What did our friend of the show, Big E Langston or
big meaty men,
slapping meat. You know, that's
big meaty men slapping meat.
All right, Peter. But you know, I'd much rather hear, man, this offensive line looks big, athletic, and fast, and they can run, as opposed to hearing Quentin Ives is having another great spring.
Yeah,
because, like I said, great running backs can be turned good because of bad offensive line, but good running backs can be turned great because of, great running backs can become worse through bad offensive line play, but good running backs can be great offensive line play, and that's the key to winning, not just in the Big Ten, but in the sport in general. We saw that what the investment of the offensive line and defensive line did for college football playoff teams last season in college football. So continue. Anytime I hear anything good about the O-line, music to my ears. Good one's also music to my ears, what we're watching tonight. Peter Krenz are going to tell you that. Well, I'll give you the dog of the day to wrap up this Wednesday edition of Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone. Now back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Aaron Rodgers currently still talking on the Pat McAfee show. He was supposed to go on at 105. I don't know if he's been on for the whole 39 minutes since he was supposed to go on. We have got an announcement, though. Aaron Rodgers has officially told the Pat McAfee show that he has not yet made any decisions on his future. He did comment on Mike McCarthy being the next head coach of Pittsburgh Steelers, saying he's one of the great guys in the league. Deep down, there's so much love and appreciation for the time we spent together. Him referring to the Super Bowl, the only Super Bowl he won in Green Bay with Mike McCarthy. Peter and I were listening to about the last 4 minutes of the interview. He was just talking about his personal life with his wife that everybody is so interested in and hasn't really seen or knows who she is. He did talk about being stalked in and around his just life and the fact that he had to move away from the beach because he had stalkers in and around his house. That's ridiculous. Nobody should be stalked. Paparazzi shouldn't be doing that. I understand that snapping a picture of his wife and proving her existence is a big deal to a lot of people. We shouldn't be endangering and definitely making people feel uncomfortable in their everyday lives. He said some strong words about the people and their opinions on his relationship. And he's totally right. He doesn't have to outwardly face and do all that stuff. And if his partner isn't comfortable doing that, neither does she. At the same time, I think that unfortunately is something that because of his fame, he has to deal with. And maybe he could have gone about it a little bit better. I don't think there's been any sort of digital footprint of this person that he's with. Maybe he can just snap a picture with her and be like, hey, she's real. You all can F off now, and we're not going to live this super public life. But, he's entitled to how he wants to live his life. And he absolutely should not have to worry about his safety or be stalked because of his personal and private decisions. That's ridiculous. So that is that. Aaron Rodgers, we still don't know if he's going to be the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up here in 2026. Peter, what are we watching tonight?
Got a few things on tonight. It's a pretty good Wednesday night slate. We got an NBA doubleheader on ESPN. Thunder Knicks first game. Second game, not so great. Hawks Bucks. So you could choose to flip that off when we get to the second game. On ESPN2 college doubleheader, Texas Arkansas in the first game there at 6 o'clock. 8 o'clock, Baylor at Houston. A lot of Texas teams in action. And then World Baseball Classic getting underway kind of later, 9 p.m. first pitch over on FS1. It's going to be Australia and Chinese Taipei. A few
Chinese
of the teams.
Taipei's got a pretty good team, apparently, according to WBC rankings, right? I've seen that.
Sounds like it. And that's the first pool play game that gets the proper competition going. A few of the teams still doing some spring training exhibitions because they'll be playing stateside. Pool play is going to be well underway here in the next couple days. And then for you Survivor fans of Survivor Season 50, new episode on CBS at 7 o'clock.
Great job, Peter.
All sorts of good stuff.
Thank you, Peter, for coming in and filling in for Josh Hodson, who will be, I assume he will be back.
He will be back
tomorrow. So that'll be great to get Josh Show back in the seat.
All right, folks, let's talk right now. I'm going to kill your bookmaker. I'm going to rip his throat out. I will blow this man out. I will step on his throat until the man chokes. Let me tell you how. Dog. Winners. Dog. Winners. Dog. Winners. Dog. Winners. Dog. Winners. I'm on a roll.
Dude, you got to love dogs, right?
All righty. So we've had a rough stretch. I think we lost like 6 dogs in the day in a row. We had a really hot stretch 2 weeks ago. I'm taking health. Our friend Jacob Bigelow has reached out to me and said, hey, give this game a look. The Colorado State basketball team is on a 7-game winning streak. They're playing a bubble team tonight, New Mexico, who according to Bracket Matrix is an 11 seed. They're plus 320 on the money line. Let's try and make back some of these losses we've had in one fell swoop. Plus 320 tonight. Colorado State continues their winning streak against New Mexico in Albuquerque tonight. You can watch that game on CBS Sports at 8 o'clock. That's our dog of the day, baby. You've been listening to Middays with Matt on 1620 Zone. USC plus the crossover. Up next with Josh Peterson and Mike Stibbs here on 1620.